Without a doubt, the movie I just watched is the weirdest film of the year in the best possible way. It's called The Substance, and I think it's flown under a lot of people's radar because this hasn't generated nearly as much buzz as it deserves. I only heard about it because during streams, people were telling me I need to go see it. It's an incredible body horror movie. So right away, I went in this with pretty high expectations with all of the glaze it was getting. This shit was getting basted like a Thanksgiving turkey here in compliments. So I had high expectations of this film. I knew nothing about it going in, didn't even know the concept of it. I was blown away. I thought it was extraordinary. It's super self-aware in its campiness. So the concept of the film is a woman who's getting older is really struggling to come to terms with not being like the beauty standard, being the beauty girl, because she was a TV star for the longest time and she was used to everybody just suckling farts out her butt. And as she was getting older, people stopped doing that. Her ratings were starting to drop and she was really struggling to come to terms with that. So she gets this opportunity to try something called The Substance, which promises to bring a better version of herself forward. Prettier, younger, this and that, the whole kit and caboodle. Now, while this idea has been explored numerous times, the pursuit of perfection, unrealistic beauty standards, and all kinds of things that this movie thematically explores, it has never been tackled in a way that The Substance has done. It is so good. And I really think it's elevated by how self-aware it is. Very clearly, there's a lot of Cronenberg influence on a lot of what you see and a lot of what you experience with this movie, and I love it. It was so refreshing, it was gross, it was yucky, and I'll get into the nitty-gritty of it for sure, but I really do think this was a pretty special film, but not everyone is going to like it. We went with a pretty large group, and I'd say 60% loved it, and the other 40% were repulsed by it. They hated it. Drew was livid. There was steam coming out of his ears. He hated sitting through this movie so much. He wanted to be neuralized by the Men in Black just to get it out of his mind because he thought it was just that trash. And I feel like that's going to be an experience for a lot of people. There are going to be people that can really appreciate it and those that are just going to be super put off by it. I guess another thing worth mentioning that some of the people that hated it pointed out is that probably a good 20% of this movie is spent naked. So there's a lot of titty and ass and close-up of booby and ass. Sometimes it came out of nowhere like a jump scare with bang, honkers. And there is a lot of that for sure. I don't think it's needless nudity or something. When it's there, there's a reason for it, but there is a lot of it there that maybe some people might find to be excessive, because there were moments where it was actually softcore porn to a certain extent, especially because one of the big things is, I'm not going to get into that because I think that's probably too big of a spoiler, but the sexuality of things does play a role in the actual plot of it all. But me personally, I was smiling ear to ear from start to finish like there was someone tickling my armpits. It had me in such a good mood. It was so fun. It was silly in all of the right ways and at all of the right moments. It was serious at all of the right moments, and the body horror is so good. Typically when something tries to be body horror in 2024, the modern age, they just do the laziest, cheapest shit ever where it's CGI blood coming out of orifices and maybe an eye poke or something. This film, it goes hog wild. It was like watching a live action Meat Canyon film. I thought it was so good. And it also does play around with the blood too. There is eruptions of blood. There's tons of guts and gore and everything. But that's not the bread and butter. This whole film, from the way it's filmed to what it presents you with for the monster creature design, is stellar. I love how everything in this film feels like it's under a microscope. So even something as simple as the Hollywood big shot smoking a cigarette, it's super zoomed in on the cigarette and his pores, and he's got saliva dripping out of his mouth while he's smoking it. He's eating some prawns and it's really yucky sounds, the worst ASMR ever. And you just sit there and witness all the grossness of it. Even when it's not body horror, it's just filmed in a way that just puts you on edge effectively. And I just thought it was great. Now, like I said, a lot of people hype this movie up saying that it's one of the better body horror films and the best horror movie of the year. And I agree, it is definitely up there. And interestingly enough, there was a sizable chunk of people that thought I'd really appreciate it because it's eerily similar to a concept that I wrote about years ago. I had an idea for a short story that I put a tweet out about 6 or 7 years ago, and I had even told a piece of that short story on our album, The Evolution of Tears, for the Gentle Men, just kind of as like a silly little track. So we put it to music, and it was just like a short summation of the story. And fundamentally what it was just this dumb dog shit idea I had where a woman achieves immortality through birthing a clone of herself. So she gets to her octogenarian era, she's senile, she's about to buy the farm, but before she dies, she spontaneously gets pregnant and births an exact copy of her younger self with all of her current self's memories. And in the substance, it's actually kind of similar. So when she gets the substance, she collapses, her back splits open, and she spawns a young version of herself. So the big thing is, she is the Matrix, and this new person, this new being, is actually her. You are one, but it is two separate people, the old you and the new you. And the thing is, you have to keep switching bodies every 7 days in order to not have any like bad side effects from it. I'm trying not to spoil anything, but all of this I'm pretty sure is going to be in the trailers because it's the entire premise of the film. Now, if you've got your thinking caps on and you're using all the neurons up here, you're going to start to connect dots that my short story and the substance, they share some similarities. Now, I'm not necessarily going to be knocking on their door with a lawyer with some papers drafted or anything, because obviously my short story did not inspire this in any way, shape, or form, and they are drastically different. But I couldn't help but actually laugh once the birthing of the younger version of herself happened, which was a really good scene, by the way. But I couldn't help but laugh because I immediately drew that connection of, oh, this is like actually my short story that I'm watching right here, this one moment. Because that is fundamentally what I was writing about for it, in a much worse, stupider way. It's done significantly better in this film, but I just thought that was so interesting that it was like even remotely similar at any stage. So I just wanted to point that out. I'm not asking for royalties or anything, I just wanted to put that out there. Yeah, I just thought this movie slapped. As I mentioned, I think it is a very self-aware film in a way you don't really see that often. It's campy in the best ways, and let me give you an example. Dennis Quaid. Dennis Quaid plays this Hollywood guy. He has the television station that our main character was once the star of, and now the younger version of herself is now the star. Of course, no one knows these are the same person or anything. Like, to everyone else, they're two separate people. And he's a huge scumbag. He's a pervert. He's a bad weirdo. He's a degenerate. And Dennis Quaid leans into the idea of, like, Hollywood sleazeball so well. So, for example, when he's, like, just traversing the world, he's in these, like, steel-toed boots. When he, like, if he was walking down the hallway in any scene, it sounded like Sonny from iRobot jogging. Like, it just sounded like metal clanking against metal every time he made a move. And the way he moved is like Vince McMahon. So he's always doing this. So every time he's walking, he's hitting him with some of this right here. And he, like, his mannerisms are so silly. So, like, towards the end, where he's like, pretty girls should always smile. And then he starts walking away doing this. Like, it's so over the top, but not in a way where I was like, damn, that's cringe. Like, he's doing too much. It was like, that's perfect. Like, that's so good. It had me laughing, which I'm pretty sure was the idea with it. And it's not just him, I just think he was the best shining example of it. They'd introduce characters sometimes, like Fred, and it's just so in your face, but not in a way where it feels dumb. Like, it just feels like, oh, they're in on this being a joke, and it's supposed to be campy. But I will say, there were moments where I think they expected the audience to be stupider. So, like, a big reveal, they did a subtle moment where it reveals it, and you're like, oh, I'm picking up on that. I see what they're saying with that. That's what that means. And then, once you have that realization, the movie immediately beats you over the fucking head with a hammer with what it is. They take all the subtlety away with, like, a flashback or showing you something, like, you know, behind the curtain with, this is what it is. This is it right here. Showing you, telling you, instead of just having any level of trust in the audience to piece it together themselves with what you've shown them. So that was a little upsetting because that happened a couple of times, and I just thought it was unnecessary in a film like this. Like, you set it up well, and you had a good execution of, like, this subtle reveal. I don't think they needed to take the extra, like, 5 minutes to give you, like, the monologue, and this is what it means, and this is why I did it, and this is who I am. I just thought that was a little much. But I just thought the film was super good. I love the monsters. When the monster stuff starts happening, again, not getting into spoilers, I thought they crushed it with the design. I thought it looked great. It did a good job of being unsettling and gross. People in the theater were audibly like recoiling, going like, oh no, you know, actually emoting during a film, which I have not heard in so long in a movie theater. So I think it accomplished its goal. And it's the perfect amount of weird. Like, one of the monsters pukes out a whole titty. Like, it actually pukes out a breast, a single boobie. It just plops onto the ground, a disembodied tit. It's like, whoa, wow, that was interesting, you know? I just think The Substance is a pretty special film. I thought they crushed it. I really did. But again, I think there's going to be a ton of people who hate it. This is not a film I think that's for everyone. It is a weird movie, and I think you need to go in there ready to accept that it's like cartoonishly over the top. And once you do accept that, I think you're going to have a ton of fun watching it. So, yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah. I love horror movies and horror games, but not for the reason most sane people like things. I like them because 9 times out of 10, they're laughably awful, and that always puts a smile on my face. I'm built a little different, where when something is so trash, it becomes a treasure to me. Like, I have the most fun watching or playing horrible garbage. And that sounds a little weird, but I've been thinking about it recently, and it's something kind of like color blindness. You know how some people process colors in different ways, they don't see them the same way? That's kind of me with quality. I'm quality blind, where when something is so bad, I perceive it as being a masterpiece. I have so much fun with bad movies or bad games. They always make me happy. Happier than like a normal good game or good movie sometimes. And I know I'm not alone. It's a very real phenomenon. It's called fun bad. It is always enjoyable to just sit down and watch or play something that is objectively not good and just laugh at it, make fun of it. You know, point your finger at it, shoot spitballs, make jokes about it with your friends. Like, it's a good time. And for years now, horror has been the main genre that's been pumping stinker after stinker, blessing us with some timeless classic fun bad content. There is more shit in the horror genre than there is in the scat fetish genre. Horror has just become like the go-to cum dumpster of absolute abominations when it comes to entertainment in movies and games. But unfortunately, sports fans, I think we're starting to enter the dark ages of the horror genre, where it's no longer making fun bad content, it's just making boring bad content that's no longer got anything redeemable about it at all. And the best example of this is the newest Insidious movie, The Red Door, which I saw last night. Now, before getting into that, I want to thank today's sponsor, Call of Dragons. Huge thanks to Call of Dragons for sponsoring today's video. Call of Dragons is a beautiful new MMO fantasy conquest game developed by the creators of Rise of Kingdoms, and they've been working on this project for over 3 years now. It's huge battles, tons of strategic freedom, and it's PC and mobile crossplay.
Big coolest feature now is the behemoths. They're these massive beasts that you can use to crush your enemies in PvE and PvP. You can fight with your alliance in guild versus environment. So, to tell you about a few of them, we brought our whole alliance here with us today.
Whoa! Call of Dragons!
Yep!
The Thunder Rock!
The Thunder Rock.
Ancient Magic Bear! Mighty Red Dragon, baby!
There we go.
Nice.
Thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.
Anytime.
It's contagious when it's Call of Dragons, baby.
There's ancient giant bears, thunder rocks, red dragons. There's actually 8 unique behemoths you can collect, and you have to enter their lair, take them down, and you can actually own 8 or as many as you want, and you train them up. They've got their own skill trees, so you give them the skills and powers you want so that you can take them into battle and crush your enemies with them.
Huge thanks again to Call of Dragons for sponsoring today's video. You can download it today by clicking the link in the description, or by scanning the QR code on your screen, or by using code CODMonster.
Yeah, if you use code CODMonster in-game, you'll get special rewards. So thanks again.
Magic, monsters, mastery.
This is the 5th Insidious movie, and it is long overstayed its welcome. The party's over, the music stopped fucking 2 movies ago, and yet it's still here trying to party, and it's just embarrassing now. The 4th movie was already overstaying its welcome. People were already fucking tired of it then, and now it's just sad and desperate. They've got this franchise propped up like Weekend at Bernie's. It's dead, and they're just like puppeteering its corpse right now. Insidious the Red Door has no story to tell whatsoever. It has no reason to exist other than try desperately to milk a little extra coin out of the property's name, because most people remember the first 3 movies very fondly, especially the first one. I remember that being like a phenomenon when that one came out. So the name still has weight to it, and they're trying their best to just get a little bit more out of it without anything left in the tank. So the reason I'm not making a moist meter on this is because I really want to dive into just what makes a horror movie no longer fun bad, and it just becomes a sad, worthless experience like Insidious the Red Door. So I will be getting into spoilers a little bit in this. I'm not going to spoil the whole thing or anything like that, but I do need to get into specifics in order to make the point that I'd like to make. Now, Insidious the Red Door is again the 5th entry in this franchise, but the beauty of that is you don't need to see any of the other ones to be caught up to speed on this, because it doesn't really tie into anything, and the only thing that it has is loose connections in the same characters from the previous films. You don't need to know anything about their history. You don't need to know anything about the world that it's in. It doesn't even really need to give you a refresher course on it, because everything that happens starts after a hypnotic memory erasing moment. So they get their memories sealed away, they get amnesia in order to forget all the trauma of their past, and then this movie is them slowly, like, realizing that something fishy happened. Why can't they remember like a whole year of their life? And then that's kind of what the movie picks up on. So you don't really need any of the other Insidious background information, which is good because I don't think there's a single person in the fucking world who remembers Insidious 4. I feel like we all got memory erased with how bad that movie was, because absolutely nobody I've seen online talking about this, or anyone I've talked to about it, like Tiana and I saw it together and I mentioned Insidious 4 to her and she had no fucking clue what I was talking about. I sounded like a crazy person to her, and I don't even remember a single plot point from it other than like a jailer jingling keys like he was trying to entertain like a Twitch audience or something. So this is one of the few compliments I can give to the Red Door. At least you didn't need to see the 4th movie in order to understand what's going on here, because everything that happens in this film is already nonsensical and self-contained to begin with. So the film is all about them getting their memories sealed away. You know, they've got it trapped, and then it's slowly getting back those memories. Dalton, the son in the franchise, is going off to college, and the dad, Patrick Wilson, he's kind of an absent father. He's been pushed away, and he's always foggy, as he calls it. His memories aren't what they should be, and it makes him upset. So he basically abandons his family in order to exist in this perpetual trance of confusion. So he's not a great dad anymore, and Dalton resents him for it. But he eventually lets his dad drive him to college. And he's an art student, and he gets a new art teacher who's a real hard ass. And she basically brings the demon out of him. He goes into like a meditative state under the instruction of the art teacher, and then he draws the Red Door. And once the Red Door is put on the canvas, all hell breaks loose. And by that I mean 2 jump scares happen, and pretty much nothing else. This movie is not even a horror film. That's the big plot twist. It is legitimately like a CW supernatural thriller, at best. There are very, very few horror elements in here other than just very loud jump scares occasionally, but even that's pretty rare. They ordered a horror movie but forgot the scary. They said, hey, can we put the scary on the side? And forgot the side of scary. This shit is so flat and goofy. So, Dalton, after drawing the Red Door, a hand like slaps his hand. He's like, oh no! So then he rushes back to his dorm in order to keep painting it and figure out what this means, because now he's starting to see things. Also, he has a roommate, and her name is Chris. And she doesn't make any sense in this film, because she is like the complete antithesis to a character you'd expect in a horror movie. She is constantly joking, and I think that's fine as a character trait, and I think it would work in other movies, but here, she does not stop joking. She doesn't take anything seriously. So when something that's supposed to be somewhat scary happens, Chris will immediately just get rid of all the tension with a joke like, hey, what are you doing on the floor? I just put a bottle rocket in the frat dude's toilet and I think it went straight up his asshole. And like, come on, get up. You got to see this. He's walking around with a firework in his butt. And it's like, oh, wow. Okay, so now there's like no tension left and there's no scares left. Like, I don't even dislike Chris as a character because she was entertaining at the very least, whereas nothing else in the movie was. At least she was trying to make something out of nothing with this film. But it does not fit in what is supposed to be a horror film because when she's on screen, you know that it's just going to be a bit silly because that's all she does is just have fun. Even in the most tense of moments, she gets strangled by an invisible demon. And right after that, like within 2 scenes, she's back to joking and gets a bunch of like night lights and makes jokes about it. So it's just a character that doesn't take the movie seriously, so how the fuck is the audience supposed to? You have a character that is actually just like making fun of the film that they're in. But anyway, so Dalton paints the red door. Patrick Wilson's character's in his own home and he's trying to go through these like memory things. And he's doing like a matching game on the window, which is a goofy idea to begin with. And they're trying to do like subtle scares. So I'll like lift up one of the things and you see like someone wearing an orange shirt in the background by the tree and it's out of focus and you're like, oh goodness, that's horrifying. And then the scene will drag on for like 2 minutes of nothing happening. And then just like the glass explodes for a cheap jump scare. Like it doesn't even really build tension. All it does is it'll show you something a little out of focus in the distance. And then all of a sudden, a fucking cannonball goes off. Just a really loud explosion noise. And that's the scare. So then that, the glass blows up and Patrick Wilson's jogging around his house going, oh no! And then he like shuts a door. And then a ghost man pushes him against a wall and he finds a box of important lore tidbits. But not really, because the lore tidbits don't really mean much of fucking anything in this film, because there isn't a real narrative that they want to tell. But anyway, I'll just fast forward a little bit here. After learning about his dad, Patrick Wilson, he then goes to his wife, who has divorced him, and she reveals all the bad stuff, the stuff that he wanted to forget through the hypnosis. She reveals that while under the possession of the demon, he attacked the family and traumatized the kids, and his wife really couldn't look at him the same way anymore. She just felt fucking sick by his presence. So that's why they sealed off the memories. That's also why they divorced. And now, since Dalton has drawn the red door, everything's starting to flood back, and the family's getting those memories returned to them gradually, and they're seeing things. So Patrick Wilson keeps seeing a couple of ghosts, and that's when it's revealed that the reason all this is happening is because the dad, Patrick Wilson, and Dalton are able to astral project themselves into the spirit realm, like fucking Aang from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So the entire half of this movie is spent astral projecting for the most part. And it's not like this is new for Insidious. We've known this for a long time. This has been a core component of the story. But here, it doesn't even bother to be horror. It is mainly like that astral projection in the smoky spot. It's literally just a room with a fog machine and that's it. It's not like very interesting to look at. It's just barren, empty wasteland. Dalton is the first one to realize that he can do this, and he does it at his college dorm in order to like scare Chris. I shit you not, when he learns that he can astral project himself out of his body, first thing he does is go to Chris's room, grabs her little mouth piano, the melodica, and he plays a little wonderful symphony. So he hits her with like the beep, beep, boop, boop, beep, like the actual electric zoo out of fucking SpongeBob, which startles her. And then she like goes downstairs and she's like, were you in my room? He's like, no, I was actually in the spirit realm in your room. She's like, oh, interesting. So then he does it again at a frat party in order to talk to a frat douchebag who died from alcohol poisoning because he thinks that he has clues about the door that needs to be closed because he had seen him once before and he's like, close the door. He's like, wait, what do you mean by close the door? So he goes back this time in the spirit realm to ask him more about the door. And that's when Chris gets strangled by the big demon. So in the Insidious franchise, the main bad guy is the lipstick face demon, I think is what he's called. He's that goober goofball who's like kind of red, but also just kind of silly looking. And his signature move in the spirit realm is he always puts a Tiny Tim record on the player. You know, the guy who sung the song like Living in the Sunlight? Living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time. That guy. he always plays that music in the spirit realm, and it's supposed to be unnerving, but it is so cringe. That kind of shit is in horror movies and horror games out the wazoo. Tiny Tim, like the music from Tiny Tim, has become a horror movie and horror game staple for low budget, low effort productions. And I feel horrible for that. That's so unlucky for Tiny Tim's music. But yeah, that's what the demon does in the spirit realm. It's that guy. And he's breaking into the real realm because Dalton keeps astral projecting. And I don't want to get into like really deep spoilers, so I'm just going to be a little broad here. But eventually, Patrick Wilson learns that Dalton is in trouble because lipstick-faced demon is taking over his body. So Patrick Wilson, astral projection to the spirit realm, tries to find Dalton. Dalton's struggling, and his body in the real world has now been taken over, and he might hurt Chris. So the movie, within the last like 20 minutes, very desperately wants to be over. It very, very much tries to speed run through everything in order to just end quickly and be done. It didn't want to be a long movie because it didn't have a story to tell. It was already running so thin. So they really just shoehorned in the most cliche shit imaginable at the end here. So basically, Patrick Wilson's spirit projects himself, or astral projects himself, somehow immediately finds Dalton. It breaks his chains with a fucking hammer. Also, I'm just getting into fucking full spoilers here. I'm sorry. I said I was going to be broad, but I actually just can't talk about how silly this is without just being specific. So major spoilers here for how the movie ends. I'm doing you a favor, though, really, because I don't recommend seeing it because there's nothing redeeming about it. It's not fun bad. But anyway, Patrick Wilson swoops in like a hero. Dalton has still hated him all the way up until this point, and now Dalton's memories have unlocked, so he remembers that his dad tried to hurt him. But Patrick Wilson breaks the chains with a single fucking hammer hit and frees Dalton from lipstick-faced demon's control. And then they both run away and close a door behind them, to which Dalton then puts paint on it and seals it forever, like a fucking sarcophagus, just entombs the demon back in that record-playing realm. And that's so fucking dumb. Like, I think that is so lazy, because everything just is a plot convenience. Patrick Wilson somehow astral projects and gets to the exact spot he needs and finds Dalton, who is buried under a bunch of chairs, and is able to break his chains very easily with a hammer. And then the lipstick-faced demon, for some reason, is following them very slowly. And this is the worst fucking trope in horror films. The demon is always just so fucking lazy. He had unlimited opportunities to stop them and thwart their escape, kill them, anything, possess them. But for some reason, he's more than content to just watch and do nothing. And even when he has Dalton's body completely under his control, instead of killing Chris, he just does goofy smiles and bobs to the side like that, and nothing else. The horror movies of the modern age just make the big bad demon or ghost or whatever seem so fucking incompetent, like actual bumbling imbeciles. They have an unreal amount of time and opportunities to kill these people, or at the very least just stop them from thwarting their plan, but they choose not to. They must enjoy it to some level, because again, the demon in this movie actually watches him free Dalton, slowly waddle their way around this realm, and he just stands there watching, and he goes, ah, like just makes a loud noise, and that's it. Nothing else. And then when they finally close the door, then the panic sets in, so now the demon like punches a hole through the door, and he's like slapping him around like, let me out, even though he could have just stopped them fucking 5 minutes before that. An unlimited amount of opportunities. It's just so stupid. Like, it's not fun bad. It's just kind of frustrating to sit there and watch it, because it's boring. It's fucking boring. This happens a billion times in horror movies. Like, it is the most cliche shit ever. I'm so tired of seeing it. Like, I love fun bad movies, but Insidious the Red Door and movies like it are no longer fun bad. They're just copy and pasting the homework from other horror movies of the past and doing nothing different or interesting. And it's so lazy that it's not fun bad. And it makes me upset. It's just a waste of time. It is a cash grab off the Insidious name, and it has nothing to offer. It is just a waste of your money and waste of your time. So I wanted to rant about that a little bit, because I'm a little concerned that horror movies going forward aren't going to be fun bad anymore. They're going to follow the Insidious Red Door formula of just doing the exact same thing a million times over. and it's going to lose all of its luster. Horror games have already been going this direction. A lot of horror games that come out these days are just the same old walking simulators that do nothing different. It's just the same jump scares, same walking simulators, so they're fucking boring now. It's very rare that you get a fun, bad horror game. But now it seems like movies are starting to go that direction too, and I think Insidious, The Red Door, has really set the bar for what I think a lot of these are going to look like, which sucks. So, just wanted to talk about this a little bit. That's really about it. So, yep. If you call yourself a fan of The Nun, I'll call you a liar. Find me one person in the world who actually thinks The Nun is a good horror movie, and I'll find you a deceiver, a teller of fibs. I just don't think it's possible that there is anyone out there on this entire space rock that thinks The Nun was an actually good movie. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of arguments you can make that it's an entertaining one, like a fun, bad, enjoyable movie. I would agree with you there to a certain extent, but anyone that would actually think that the movie was good enough to deserve a sequel, I just can't imagine that being the case. I don't think there's a such thing as fans of The Nun. There's probably more fans of eating paint chips than that movie. And yet somehow the Hollywood soulless suits, these zombie husks that control the pipeline of big budget movies, deemed this franchise worth a new entry. So we got The Nun 2 somehow. I just came back from watching it because I'm a sucker for bad horror films, and I thought maybe this one stood a better chance of being fun bad than the previous one, which I wasn't a huge enjoyer of, even as a so bad it's good flick. I gave that puppy a 25% on the moist meter, so the sequel had some big shoes to fill. And unfortunately, the only thing that was filled was my water when I finished drinking all of it to keep myself awake. Every single scene in this film, except for maybe one or two, is a scene that they have literally used 1,000 times by now. In their own franchise, in the Conjuring movies, in the Annabelle movies, every scene in The Nun 2, I'm pretty sure, is copy and pasted with a different skin for this film. They're not even trying. There's not even an iota of effort put into this. I'll get my only compliments out of the way right now. There are two scenes that stood out to me as actually being creative. And one of them was about the main character, Irene, whom you'll remember from the first film, having visions. And the visions in this film work like Genjutsu in Naruto. So fucking Itachi here traps her in a Genjutsu, and she's seeing The Nun on a billboard. There's crows flying by. It's actually very much like Itachi. Maybe that's who the demon is. And so she's looking at this board that has all of these magazines on it. Wind blows in, it starts flipping the magazines around, and the magazines flip to a bunch of different pages that eventually form something that resembles The Nun, and then she jolts her arm out and strangles Irene. And it was pretty cool. I was like, that's very interesting, and the jump scare was pretty effective. Not that jump scares are something to be proud of per se, but if you're going to do them, at least do them well. You know, a jump scare is basically just like a quick, loud noise in the middle of quiet in order to trigger that brief little startle sensation, because our caveman brains are hardwired that way. It's the best comparison, and the one that always gets made, is a comedian going out into the crowd and tickling someone and calling it good comedy. It's just cheap for horror films, but if you're going to include jump scares, make sure that they're done well. And that one was executed decently. And then the only other scene that I thought was cool was actually the very first scene. It's in a big church, and then it ends with someone getting lit on fire. So the priest just gets cremated after encountering the nun. And it was very, well done. That whole sequence leading up to that, I actually thought was kind of a banger. And then it never reaches that level of quality again. It's like they put all of their effort into the intro, and then that one scene with the magazines, and nowhere else. Now that I've got all the compliments out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the rest. I am super tired of every single story in mainstream horror films being the exact same fucking thing. I'm going to get into spoilers. I don't think anyone cares about the narrative of The Nun 2. This isn't exactly something that people are going to for a deep, intricate lore, I don't think. It does loosely tie into the Conjuring universe, but only because there's a post-credit scene that works like the Avengers, where the Warrens get a phone call and he's like, How can I help you? I'm on it. That's the only tie-in. Other than that, there is nothing here that even connects it. So anyway, the film's narrative is the exact same plot to about 5,000 other horror films, like almost to a T. I'm confident now that these are being written by AI because it's just taking the same DNA of everything else and doing nothing different with it, not even a unique spin. And like all other horror movies that have come before it, if you stop and think about the plot to this for even just 2 seconds, the entire movie falls apart. Let me explain how that works in this film. So, the first scene that I mentioned, the one that I like, yeah, the nun lights that priest on fire, literally just burns him alive with no effort at all. And then never does it again. Falls into the same tropey horror garbage where once the demon is doing what they want to do, all of a sudden the extent of its power is opening and closing doors, or making a scary face appear to spook somebody, or moving some chairs around, or something like that. It becomes so weak, even though, like, at the very beginning of this film, which in real world time of the movie, well, that's the opposite of real world time, in movie time was only like a month ago, we saw it light someone on fire effortlessly. And now all of a sudden, all it can do is lightly push things around. It has about as much force as a light breeze in the summertime wind. Like, how? Like, what could have easily happened is the demon goes to the place it wants to go, lights everybody on fire, kills them instantly, and then gets what it wants. And what does it want? It wants an ancient artifact. So, the demon was able to find where the ancient artifact was, and it infiltrates a school. And at the school, it starts scaring kids. For no reason, really. Just starts startling children, and nothing else. And before doing that, it had actually just snapped the neck of a woman who gave a delivery to where the demon was staying. So the demon is still perfectly capable of killing people, yet for some reason when it comes to that school, with the main objective in that school, it decides not to kill anyone. Why? It easily can. It just demonstrated that multiple times, and now all of a sudden it's a pacifist? It just doesn't make any sense. There's no explanation for why the demon doesn't just kill everyone at that school and then get the artifact, because it knows it's there. It could just get it once everyone's gone. The only argument I can see for why it wouldn't want to do that is it doesn't know exactly where that artifact is, so it's trying to lead people on a wild goose chase to accidentally locate it. But I think that's kind of a weak theory, and it's one I'm just making up to try and justify bad writing here. But let's assume that is the reason. It's still fucking stupid because if no one's around, there's no one to foil their plans. In every single horror movie, it seems like the bad entity, the bad thing, is always more than willing to just let everyone in the film stop it. Like, it wants to be stopped. It has a humiliation fetish and it wants to be beaten for some reason. Because it just lets everyone solve the mystery and do the only thing that can defeat it. In fact, sometimes it just leads them to the thing that can beat it. For no reason. Like, why? Why? So, the demon is at the school now. It's incognito, and Irene from the first film, as well as a new character, are working together to try and track down the demon because the Vatican has been alerted to its presence, that it's back. It wasn't actually defeated in the previous film. The Vatican in this movie works like the Men in Black. They have like this really deep network of like intel and operatives that keep everyone up to date on demon activity. So they get the scoop, they figure out what the demon wants and where it is, and they go to the place. I'm just really speedrunning through all of this because most of the film is spent with just really lame, cheap jump scares and a complete absence of suspense or any real reason for what's unfolding. It's just the demon goofing around, scaring children at a school. That's it. So the good guys get to the school, they confront the demon directly, and the demon, for some reason, just starts walking off after they figure out what it's there for. And keep in mind, this demon has shown that it can basically teleport and be anywhere it wants. But at the end of the film, all of a sudden, all it can do is walk or jog a little bit very slowly, which is another trope in horror films where for the entire movie, the demon can be everywhere. And now all of a sudden at the end, all it can do is walk at the speed of like an 85-year-old woman. Doesn't make any sense, but that's exactly what happens here. and the good characters are trying to stop it, and the demon punches one of them, which sends her flying against some glass, and then force pushes another one and keeps walking. Why not just kill them? The demon has superhuman strength. That punch sent her flying. Could have easily killed her, finished the job. Like, there was no reason the demon wouldn't do that. And the force push, again, could have easily just killed her instead. But makes the decision not to. They catch up to the demon after getting pushed away. They all together get the artifact, and it's a big struggle between the demon and the humans. Even though I don't know how that can even be a contest, because the demon has superpowers. It could just push them away. But it scarcely uses that, and when it does, it's like a very light push. So they engage in this struggle over the artifact, and eventually the demon starts slamming one of the girls' heads onto the concrete, and I was like, oh, he's about to kill her. And then doesn't. After slamming her head on the concrete, the demon lifts her up in a chokehold, like he's about to perform a cane chokeslam. And then one of the students grabs the artifact and runs away, and the demon looks, sees the girl running away, and for some reason just lightly drops the main character. When earlier in the film, he did something similar with a complete stranger and snapped her neck effortlessly. He could have easily done that to the main character and would have solved every single one of the demon's problems. Like, there would be no one left to stop him. But inexplicably just lets her go. And also, I forgot to mention this, a goat man gets summoned, which was actually kind of hype. This is another compliment, the Goat Man. I'm a huge fan of cryptids, and they legitimately made Goat Man here, and he chases people around on all four. It's really silly, and it made me giggle. So I did appreciate the goat being in here. That was cool. Actually looked like fucking Mr. Tumnus out of Narnia. It was a great character. So the goat's chasing some of the little children while one of the other nuns is there trying to protect them. And then the main character, and one of the other children are struggling over the artifact to defeat the bad demon nun. And it ends in an anticlimactic showdown where the demon finally, once again, uses the light someone on fire move, but instead of just immediately lighting up the main character in flames, slowly starts like a small fire on like her bottoms, which slowly goes up instead of just immediately lighting them entirely on fire like we saw the demon do at the beginning, which gives the girl just enough time to remember that her mother, whom she had mentioned a little earlier in the film, had superpowers basically, and thus the main character has the superpowers, and an explosion of wine happens, which is changed into the blood of Christ, and it melts the demon, and the day is saved. I've summed up the majority of the film there. I left out a couple of details, of course, but it's so fucking dumb. It's so dumb. It's insultingly stupid. There's not even really that many fun bad moments in here. It's just such a snooze fest because it's every single horror movie trope ever rolled into this film, unapologetically. Like, if you're going to do that, at least get creative when it comes to your jump scares, and it actually builds some suspense and do something fun there. It doesn't even try outside of a couple of scenes. Damn it. So yeah, I don't know why they even bothered making a sequel to The Nun. The first one was terrible, and this one I'm actually going to say is a little better. Like, objectively speaking, I think this movie is a little bit better than the first one, but it doesn't make it enjoyable. Like, it's just slightly better than a piece of shit. It's like a less stinky piece of shit. But yeah, I just wanted to rant about this movie a little bit because I am still shocked that it even got a sequel in the first place. Yeah, hopefully the next Conjuring movie's good. We'll see. But anyway, that's about it. See ya. Yeah, I saw Night Swim tonight. We'll talk about it. I don't think there's a single human being on this planet that saw the trailer for Night Swim and said, that looks good. I think everyone knew it was going to be bad. So I got excited. It seemed like it could be fun bad. Aaron and I went and saw it tonight. It was fun bad to an extent. So if you don't know what Night Swim is, it's a haunted pool. Family moves into a house, their pool is haunted, they got a demon in the pool. And it's... Conceptually, I don't think you could come up with something more boring. That is such a lame idea for a horror movie, just, ooh, spooky pool. I'd have to really struggle, like really try to think of a dumber concept for a horror film. Like, a single haunted light bulb. Like, over the staircase, one of the lights flickers because there's a demon. A lady fell down the stairs and died, and now she haunts the light because it was too dark to see, and now she can flick it on and off from time to time. That's basically the same fucking concept as this movie, in terms of how scary it is. It doesn't even really try. There's like 3 jump scares in the film, but they don't even bother setting up tension. They just make a loud noise 3 times and call it a day. It's so fucking boring. Does anyone care about spoilers? I don't know how many of you are planning on going to see Night Swim tomorrow. Just gotta hop in the car right now, scoot in sideways to check this puppy out. Don't want to ruin it for you, but it looks like most of chat is saying no. So, right away, we knew this was going to be special. We saw it in Dolby, which is basically like seeing it in IMAX, but with comfier chairs. It almost felt sacrilegious to even put Night Swim in the Dolby theater, the auditorium, because, man, it was something special. Aaron and I both love bad movies, so we both came to the conclusion that if we're going to see poop, we want it to stink. So we bought paid the extra price for Dolby to experience it. And I went in first, and I was like 15 minutes late, but usually that's fine because there's about 20 minutes of previews for most movies. This movie started instantly. They wanted to get you right into the action immediately. And Aaron was getting a drink because he thought he had time. And on his way in, he told me that a group of teenagers laughed at him on the way in to see Night Swim. And that really set the tone for the rest of the movie, honestly. It was embarrassing. It was shameful sitting there in Dolby watching Night Swim. So the story is, the dad was a former baseball star. Well, I don't even know if star is really the right word. He was a baseball player, major league player. He then came down with an illness, and the family relocates to this house that has this really nice pool. It's a really cool swimming pool, and they're super happy, and they get obsessed with the pool. But the pool's got a secret. It's got magic water, and the magic water is haunted by a fat guy. I'm not kidding. Like, that's the scare. The water has a fat, sloppy monster, and it's just a fat man that sometimes pop out, and he goes, and the reason he's there is because that pool was once a spring, a magic spring that can grant a wish, but it comes at the cost of needing a sacrifice. So you're led to believe that like seaweed monster guy is one of the people that was sacrificed, or basically he's kind of like the incarnation of the pool's evil. And so the dad is swimming in the pool and his illness is getting better, but his family starts seeing the fat guy. He's like in the drain one time, like the scene out of It, which you see in this trailer. And he's like the weakest monster ever. Like legitimately the weakest monster ever. This isn't even him, this is somebody else that came in for a single scene and never was saw again. Hold on. Wasn't it in the trailer where the kid sticks his hand in the drain? Because they borrowed that shot for shot out of It and did it significantly worse. And also, every single scare in the movie seems to be in the trailer. In everything it tries to do. And it doesn't even really try, to be fair. But yeah, it grants wishes, the dad starts feeling better, and he's kind of a douchebag. So his son wants to be a baseball star like him, and the dad wants his son to like bask in his glory, so he takes him to like baseball practice, and he's trying to teach his son to hit, and his son gets a hit and he's so proud, and he's like, "That's a great hit, son, but don't worry, we'll work on it, because it could be better." And then the dad's like, "Let me show you how it's done." So he steps up to bat at the practice with these 8-year-olds, and he's like going through it. He's like, "This is my moment. This is my fucking glory." And he fucking cranks a heater. And he hits a home run. And then he comes home and immediately starts relaxing in the pool again, which, again, summons the demon to his family. I guess he doesn't know that, but it doesn't matter. Because it's still so fucking silly how they wrote this guy. You're supposed to care about him, but he's just kind of an asshole. So one of the kids ends up getting his home run ball and asks him to sign it. And he's so proud, he signs the ball and he's like, "Hold on to that. It's going to be worth a lot of money one day." Because he believes the pool's going to get him back into baseball shape or whatever. I don't even know why I'm so fixated on this, because it's not important. Really, none of the story is. Pool just summons a couple of dead people occasionally and they go boo. It sucks. Movie fucking sucks. I don't even know how to really talk about it without just describing all of the worst scenes. It also has that standard horror cliche where it can possess people by getting into their mouth. So one scene, the dad gets the pool in him, and then he gets possessed. So then he starts doing scary voice and like slapping his daughter. And then the daughter hits him with a baseball bat. And then it's just so dumb. I'm not gonna spoil the ending, I guess, but it's fucking terrible. Thanks for membership, Josiah. It's so boring too. Like, I'm making it sound much more entertaining than it is, because most of the film is just spent with them just idly swimming in the pool, or his dad reliving the glory days of being a baseball player. Spoil the ending, bro? Okay. After she hits him with the okay, I have to set up the scene. The dad's getting better. He's getting magically healed because the pool is actively drowning his son. The dad's possessed, so the pool is inside of him, the pool demon. And he's slapping his daughter around, trying to buy time so his son can drown. His wife is in the pool swimming to save her son. And it turns out her dad was a Navy SEAL and taught her how to be a Navy SEAL super swimmer, so she's swimming to the depths of hell, because inside the pool it goes to an alternate ocean dimension, so she's swimming to like the bottom of the abyss. Meanwhile, there's all these spirits of people that were sacrificed in the past for other people's wishes that kind of like yell at her, but they don't do anything to stop her. So she gets her son, brings him to the surface, and he's been down there for like 10 minutes by this point, but brings him to the surface and gives him CPR and revives him. And the dad comes out there after slapping his daughter a couple times, and then the daughter hits him with a baseball bat, and it makes him puke up the goo, this pool goo. And then immediately he delivers one of the worst lines I've heard in horror movies in quite some time. This had Aaron and I cackling. After doing his horror movie voice where he's talking about how Elliot, the son, has to die, and he gets hit by the baseball bat, then he just goes into like wimpy man mode and he starts whining and he goes, "Elliot, you okay?" Like, that's his last line pretty much too. And then he's like, "I know what I have to do. In order to save Elliot, I have to go back in the pool and die." So he just swims out into the pool and disappears. And then it rolls credits. It's so stupid. His line wasn't, "Elliot, are you okay?" He says, "Is Elliot okay?" But in like a really wimpy, whiny voice. You know, it almost sounds like he's blaming his wife for it. Like, what is going on here? What's happening? What are you doing to Elliot? I knew I couldn't trust him around you. But like really whiny. Just drain the fucking pool. You see, they thought of that though, because if they drain the pool has a will of its own, so it doesn't stay drained, basically. It would fill itself back up with the original spring water. The mom visits the previous owner who sacrificed her daughter so her son could feel better, and she explains that the pool's water needs to kill, and then it'll sleep. So the only way to make it sleep was by the dad swimming out there and dying. Just sell the house. They can't leave because the pool won't let them leave. The pool gets into the dad's body, and then when they try and leave, he goes... He starts coughing and choking. So it would have killed him had they left. I made it sound far more enjoyable and action-packed than it is. Again, most of the film is just spent with them idly swimming in the pool and putting together the worst mystery ever. There's no reason why the pool doesn't just immediately drown Elliot in the first scene, by the way, because the dad goes in the pool instantly. The dad goes in the pool, his wish is to feel better so he can be back to being a baseball player, and then pretty much right after that, Elliot is the next one who goes in the pool completely alone. It could have easily just killed Elliot right then and there, but inexplicably it decides not to. It waits until the mother figures out that the pool is evil before making its move. There's no reason for it at all. It could have done it right away. If the dad dies in the end anyway, why does it matter if he dies if they leave the house? Well, because after he pukes up the pool goo gets inside of Elliot. So then he needs to kill himself to save Elliot. So the autograph wasn't that good then. No, the autograph won't be worth anything in universe. Also, the scene after he signs that baseball... Man, I'm getting into like the more useless scenes, but they're just so bad I can't help but talk about them. So he's not like outwardly disappointed that his son Elliot isn't as good at baseball as he is, but when he goes to practice to show off, the coach's son is really good. And he like fist bumps the coach's kid, and Elliot's clearly a little jealous, and then they throw a pool party at their house, and for some reason, the dad, Elliot, his dad, the main character, well, I guess he's not really the main character, but the baseball player, he starts talking to the coach's son as if it's his new son, like he basically adopts him. So he points at one of the other dads in the pool with a kid, playing chicken, and he goes, hey, I don't remember his name. Hey, Junior, you think we could take them in a game of chicken? He calls him Steroid Shrek. He says, do you think we could take Steroid Shrek? And then he's like, yeah, we can take him. And it's like, why are you playing chicken with a kid that's not even yours? Elliot would love some father-son time, but instead, you're with the coach's son. So he straps the coach's son to his shoulder, they play chicken, and then he goes into the deep end of the pool, so he starts drowning, and then the pool goo gets in his body, this is how it infiltrates him, and then he tries to kill the child by grabbing onto his legs during chicken and drowning him. It's so stupid. It's so fucking stupid. It's a horrible scene. And then, like, the coach's dad jumps in, he's like, what the fuck are you doing, Ray? Ray, what are you doing? Let go of my son, you're drowning him. Ray, stop it. You didn't appreciate the movie? It's a metaphor, peasant. Yeah, it's a metaphor for don't swim, I guess. Oh, God, you just reminded me, in the very beginning of the movie, there's a pool guy who comes out because Ray cuts himself in the pool, and he's like, this is a weird one. So he calls out a pool guy to get the job done, and he's a real character. He's so quirky. He comes out and he starts leaning on the diving board, and he goes, pools. It's weird, right? This one's got like a natural spring attached to it. Never seen one in person. Isn't it interesting how we evolved from water, yet there's something deep inside of us that makes us afraid to go back? Maybe that's why we're so obsessed with taming water. And that's his whole statement, then he leaves. Never to be seen again. It's like the worst line ever written to be profound. So maybe the whole movie is a metaphor, perhaps. This is just the annual Blumhouse super stinker. I mean, it's January. I can't imagine a horror movie coming out the rest of the year that's worse than this. I don't think it's possible. Because again, it doesn't really have anything scary about it. It's very, very lame. Like, super, super lame. I know it's fuck you, it's January, but even still, this one's pretty awful even by that standard. Who the hell made this movie and what was the budget? The budget was probably like $2 million, and who made it is actually James Wan was one of the producers. Night Swim box office prediction, will it flop or succeed? My money's on succeed because it's a low budget. It's definitely less than 15 million. They're just speculating. It's 100% less than that. It's like the director went for a record in how many eyes they could roll. I don't think your eyes wouldn't even roll. You'd just be falling asleep. It's just bad. It's just not very good. There's fun bad moments, sure, but overall it's just kind of uninteresting. But yeah, that's the Night Swim review. Trash. But which everyone knew it was going to be. That's not shocking, but just very, very bad. Worse than I expected it to be, for sure. What would I give Night Swim on the moist meter? Probably comfortably a 15%, I would say. I think 15% for Night Swim's fair. I know it's late, but I just need to whine and complain and rant about a movie I just saw really quickly. You know how much I love bad movies that are so bad that they're good. I think it's the most fun you can have is getting together with friends and watching absolutely atrocious movies or shows that you can laugh at and make fun of together. And there was a new banger, or so I thought, that was coming out called Pope's Exorcist. This is Russell Crowe as what I thought would be like a John Wick of exorcists, going out there and just slapping demons around, like actually kung fuing them and like overpowering them, fist fighting. Like that's the impression I got from the trailer. I thought it was going to be like absolutely wild and nutty. And I just came back from the theater after seeing it. And my God, there's just a lot that I need to talk about in terms of disappointment and bewilderment that this movie even got made in the first place. So I'm going to treat this like a little confessional here and own up to some sins. Seeing this was a sin. And I understand the Lord forgives all sins, but I feel like after he takes a peek at the Rotten Tomatoes 83% audience score, he's going to flood the earth again out of pure embarrassment for even making our species. This movie is so far from an 83%, it's laughable. It is not good by any means. I don't know why the audience score is so high. Like, it is guilty of more sins than any of the demons in the film. Well, even though there's only one main demon. It is the most generic horror schlock of all time. But its biggest crime is being boring. It borrows every single generic horror plot point, every generic horror movie cliche of like, sitting up from the bed like the Undertaker because the child's possessed and he has like a deep demony voice. Every single like horror movie trope is just ham-fisted into this. All of it dumped into this witch's cauldron and brewed into a disgusting stew. Like, it is not even done in a fun way. There's nothing creative or enjoyable about it. It's boring mostly, though there are some fun moments, like fun bad moments that I'll talk about. But overall, I am just blown away by how uninteresting the film was after seeing the trailer. The trailer got me hype. I knew this wasn't going to be a good movie. I don't feel like anyone with a working pair of eyes would watch the trailer for The Pope's Exorcist and be like, wow, that might be pretty damn good. Like, that was never a thought that crossed anyone's mind, I doubt. But I as well as many others, I imagine, were under the impression like, wow, this will be like entertainingly silly. But it really wasn't. It didn't even try to be scary, first of all. Like, that was the wildest thing to me. It really didn't even try to be a horror movie. Its scares mainly consisted of the standard lift people up using, Jedi Force powers and throw them around a room, or knock over a couple of crosses. Well, and I guess there is, of course, the cliche of, like, bone snapping, walking on all fours. But past that, it doesn't even really try to build tension. There's not even jump scares, which is like the easiest slam dunk for horror films where they could just throw in a bunch of jump scares and people are like, oh my god, it was horrifying. But it didn't even bother with that. It just does nothing. It's just so bland. It's just an empty calorie of a film. I did something I very rarely do. I took notes during this film because I was so dumbfounded by what I was watching. So I'm just going to go over it start to finish. There will be spoilers. There's a lot I want to talk about. So Russell Crowe hops back in the saddle here, dusting off the acting chops to tackle the lead role of a powerful exorcist named Gabriele Amorth. And the film opens with him performing an exorcist on a guy who's struggling with the devil coming over him. So he's bouncing around the bed all crazy like a toddler going through a sugar rush, and Gabriele's asking him questions like a little interrogation, what's my name? What do you want? Who are you? You're Satan, aren't you? You're Satan. And then he's like, yeah, I'm Satan. I'll possess anyone. I know everything. And then Gabriele's master plan is he brings in a pig and he's like, I don't believe you. You're not Satan. If you were Satan, you could possess this pig. And he's like, yeah, I could possess that pig. I could fucking possess him. Watch me possess that pig. And Gabrielle's like, do it. Possess that pig. So then he does, and then the guy is back to normal. And then once the Satan is inside the pig, they just blast the pig's head off with a shotgun. Which honestly set the bar pretty high immediately, because I was like, okay, that was fun, silly, bad. He just literally did, like, fucking middle school reverse psychology on Satan. What a fucking buffoon to fall for that one. The oldest trick in the book. It's then explained a few scenes later that this wasn't a real possession. This was mental illness. And Gabriele was just doing a bit of theater. But he really did just execute that pig right in front of that guy in order to convince him that the demon was no longer there. And because he executed that pig, he then had to go through like a religious legal proceeding where he stood trial with these other bishops that were like, this is unnecessary. You're performing exorcists. It's not, there's no such thing as this evil, we don't need this kind of big exorcist position anymore. You're out of line, Gabriele. We don't really need you anymore. So Gabriele's like, you guys don't know what real evil is. Even if 98% of them are like mental illness and not real possession, there's still 2% that's just pure evil and you need me. So then he walks out, but not before making a goofy noise. So as he turns his back to him, and it turns out Gabriele was also like a lawyer at one point or something, I believe he mentioned. So this was actually like a Saul Goodman moment where he was just like defending himself in religious court. And it ultimately ends with them being like, yeah, we don't really need you. So Gabriele storms off, and then as he's about to exit the door, he goes, for no fucking reason, because it was something he did earlier to a group of like nuns that walked by him. I guess that was like a catchphrase they tried, or like a calling card they tried to use for the very beginning of the film and then forgot about it because he never does it again after these two scenes. But there was a group of nuns that walked by him and he goes like literally blowing raspberries at them, and they giggle and walk by. So then he does it again after that whole religious legal proceeding. And he drops it after that. But it started fun bad. It was like, oh, this is super silly, but it seems almost self-aware and I'm having fun. But then it totally loses all of that charm. The core part of the movie then unfolds where a family just went through a loss with their father and a woman's husband passing away, and the only thing they have left is this giant estate, this holy ground that they're getting like renovations done to. So there's a ton of workers, and they end up unearthing something unholy. Now, before getting to that, the family is as cookie cutter as it gets. The mom's, strong on her own. She's mentally sound, like she's doing everything she can for her children. They mean the world to her. The daughter is a rebellious teen who, I'm not exaggerating, first thing when she gets in the house is goes up to one of the worker, grabs a cigarette, asks for the light, gets a light with the cigarette, then sits on the balcony over the front porch. And the mom's like, put that cigarette out. What are you doing? And she's like, ugh. And then walks off, storms off, mad at her mom. So this was as cliche as it gets with a teenage girl and teenage angst. And then, of course, she's always listening to, like, loud music and hates her mom. Like, oh, Mom, you're being such a square. Get out of my room, Mom. I'm busy listening to music. So that's her whole character, which means nothing because after, like, 10 minutes... none of this shit matters, but that's her. And then they also have a son, a younger brother. He's like 12 or something, I don't really know, but he's traumatized because he watched their dad die. So it wasn't like some kind of normal passing or anything. It was some kind of car accident that wasn't fully explained, but he ended up getting impaled through the head, and the son sat there and watched it. So he was traumatized from it and refused to talk. Now, after all of this is established over the course of like a 5-minute speed run of getting across the most two-dimensional characters of all time, that child is exploring the house, and he goes into the basement and he sees like this glory hole, and he takes a peek through it, and there's like a door with symbols on it, and it ends up kind of possessing him. It sinks its fangs into him. This is how the demon gets in. He literally comes in through the fucking glory hole in the basement. So the child ends up immediately getting possessed within the first couple of minutes of being there. And then some of the workers go into the basement, and they also notice the glory hole. They're like, oh man, this is absolutely absurd. Is there no decency? Where's the class? So they're peeking through the glory hole, and one of them lights a flare and was going to put the flare through the glory hole, but it ends up turning into a flamethrower and cremating them, which scares off all the other workers. So then all the other workers leave, and then it's just the family left in the house with their child who is now possessed. Everything I've explained right now happens almost instantly. Like, all of this was so quick, there was no build up to any of it, no tension at all. It was done as quickly as possible to get to, like, I guess what they deemed to be the scary parts, with the child having like a demon voice and saying crude, creepy things. But anyway, after the possession, the Vatican gets word about this, and then they send Gabriele out there, like, Gabriele, I've got real scary stuff happening at this location. He's like, I'm on it, chief. Give me my badge and my gun, I'm going in. So Gabriele is then sent there like some kind of fucking religious assassin to take down a demon. And I really thought he was going to roll up in like some kind of Justice League jet, like or something right out of the X-Men where they have like crazy fucking jet. I thought he was going to fly in on some high-tech shit, but then he rolls up in a moped. So he just kind of scoots on in on his moped, shows up to the house in order to start attacking the demon. And the demon, which is possessing the boy, is a real wacko. Like, this guy's a goofball. So before Gabriele gets there, like right before he gets there, the mom notices something's wrong with the child. He's kind of bedridden and he looks pale. And then he starts talking in a not really deep voice, but you know that like goofy voice you'd make as a child growing up, like the like that kind of shit where you like vocal fry yourself and then try and make it deeper. That's the voice, the very cliche horror movie demon voice. And the mom then hugs the child in order to, like, calm him down. And while that's happening, she looks down and it turns out the child is squeezing her titty. And then she's like, oh, goodness gracious. And he's like, you didn't breastfeed me enough, mommy. I shit you not. That is what he says. And she's like, oh God. And she, like, covers herself up even more. And then he starts laughing about, like, squeezing her tit. And then he says, bring me the priest. So they brought in a priest that wasn't Gabriele first. His name was Thomas, and it was a bigger mismatch than when Krillin tried to fight Frieza. Thomas shows up and immediately gets fucking ragdolled by that demon. He gets thrown out of the room, and he's like, good heavens, this is a little much for me. We're gonna need the big guns. So he leaves, and then Gabriele shows up. So then it's the two of them, and they try to tag team the demon in order to, you know, solve this situation. So Gabriele gets in there and he starts his interrogation, and the demon immediately showcases that he's more powerful than all the other ones Gabriele's seen because he knocks a cross off the wall. Like, I'm so tired of seeing that in horror movies where, like, this really powerful demon can only do, like, a couple of trivial things like blow over a vase or move a chair slightly or throw a bucket of dirt against a wall. It's like, who cares? It's not intimidating. That's fucking embarrassing. But Gabriele's like, oh, jeepers creepers. And then he's like, what's my name? And the demon gets it right. He's like, you're Gabriele Amorth. Then he gets blasted with memories from his past, sins that he hasn't fully forgiven himself for. So there's, like, a moment where he's in a war, and then there's like a lady, and then the demon pukes up a bird, and then Gabriele's like, oh, I'm out of here. So then he fucking waddles out of the room, goes up to the other priest, Thomas, and he's like, okay, that guy means business. So then he instructs Thomas to confess his sins to him so they can't be used against him when they go, talk to the demon again. So Thomas is like, all right, it's been 8 months since I went to confession, and he starts to confess his sins. And Gabriele's like, 8 months? Okay, this is going to take too long. He's like, okay, Lord, all of his sins are forgiven. He's very sorry, trust me. So he literally uses a cheat code to forgive his sins on behalf of God, which I thought was, like, almost disrespectful. It's like, what the fuck? Can you do that? Like, are you allowed to do that? Like, do you have the power to just say, like, all of his sins are forgiven without him actually confessing it? I was like, damn, that was weird. He had no interest at all in hearing, like, the sins he was going to confess to. He's just like, yeah, whatever, you're fucking good. Literally just gives him the stamp of approval, and he's like, all right, time to go. And when they get into the room, unsurprisingly, the first thing the demon does is show Thomas his sins that he has clearly not been absolved of. It looks like Gabriele didn't have the authority to do that, so he immediately just gets blasted with his sins, and the demon calls him Panty Sniffer. He says that he fucks the daughters of members of his congregation. And then this makes Thomas very upset that he'd mentioned that. So Thomas goes over to him, the child that's possessed by the demon, and two hands strangles him and shakes him like Homer Simpson strangling Bart. It was so goofy. And Gabriele's like, please, Thomas, no, don't do it. That's what he wants. As the child's like, getting fucking strangled by Thomas. That was a good fucking silly scene. But after that, then the demon laughs and then he targets Gabriele. And he's like, you know what I want to do, Gabriele? I want to fuck you. I want to fuck you so hard that when you start coming, you're going to feel ashamed by the release. I'm not kidding. That was his statement. Like, when asked about his main goal, it was to fuck Gabriele. And not, like, in a literal sense, to fuck Gabriele, at least from the way he was speaking about it. Which was jarring to hear that. It was so weird. It was so fucking weird. And then they start trying to get, like, the religious artifacts out on him, like, the power of Christ compels you type shit. And it's not working. The demon then turns off the lights, which, for some reason, makes them stop immediately. And I'm kind of just giving you, like, an overall plot summary of everything that happens here, but I want to stress, and I can't stress enough how there is at no point any attempt to even build tension or show you unnerving things or make anything scary. It's like AI generated a script of a horror film without figuring out how to execute on the scares that they're copying from all of the horror films before it. Like, it is so bland. But anyway, after the lights go out, Gabriele and Thomas split up. Gabriele then goes outside and notices that there's a seal of the Vatican on, like, a well. So he ties a rope to the top of the well and then his moped and drives it, and then, which, takes the lid off the well. Thomas is still inside, posted up, making sure, like, the demon child's not up to any silly stuff, any fishy business. But then things start popping off. The mom has, like, a giant arm come over her while she's sleeping, and I don't even know how she's able to even, like, fucking find the time to go to sleep with the demon child always yelling and screaming and, like, throwing things around the room. Well, that's an exaggeration. Knocking things around the room lightly. But she's, like, in bed trying to sleep, and then a giant hand comes over her face and drags her into the mattress slowly. And then the daughter, who's in her rebellious stage, is trapped in a closet with, like, a bunch of, like, scratches going across the wood next to her. And Thomas is there, and he, approaches the demon about it, like, stop it, demon. And then the demon bites his ear, like full-blown Mike Tyson bites a piece of his ear, and Thomas is like, oh my, you didn't just do that. Like, he didn't yell or scream or anything. He gets his ear bitten off, and he just looks more like inconvenienced than anything. He's like, ugh, there goes a piece of my ear. Zoinks. God damn it. And then he just, like, walks back out. So Gabrielle then realizes that there's a lot more at play here than they originally thought. There's a bigger mystery afoot now that he's opened this well, and he sees a bunch of, like, skeletons. And then he drops a piece of fire paper in there to see how deep the well goes, which of course causes it to erupt like a goddamn volcano again, just like what happened with the glory hole. And then Gabrielle rushes back in, sees all the chaos. He pulls the mom out from the bed, and then he opens the closet door where the daughter was getting attacked by little scratches, and he's like, this is not a good place to do that, so please stop. Cease that foolishness. And the demon stops, and then the girl leaves the closet. And then we have the most generic plot device when it comes to horror films ever. Gabrielle reveals that all they need to do in order to save the day is learn the demon's name. This is something that has been used in every fucking horror movie that deals with demons or possession since the beginning of fucking time. It is so lazy and boring, but that's the major plot point. It's them then needing to find out what the demon's name is. So they start exploring. They also confront the demon again, who reveals what his real plot was to possess Gabrielle. He didn't want to just possess the family, he wanted Gabrielle. So they're exploring the premises. They eventually find that glory hole and they bust it open. They go inside the area. Turns out it's a catacombs where there's a bunch of these skeletons all over the place. And then while this is happening, the like super high tier bishop, like max level bishop that sent Gabrielle here in the first place, then starts having a panic attack. He's like, it's worse than we thought. He read like a letter or something from like a book of reports that they keep getting about the situation. He's like, oh my goodness. So he starts freaking out. He's like, ah. And then he has like a little mini heart attack. He ends up in the hospital. And as they're exploring the catacombs, they're learning like, wow, this dates back like fucking 400 years ago. Like, this demon's been around for a long time, and the Vatican tried to seal it off and cover it up. And then while that's going on, the priest is laying, like the high bishop is laying in bed, surrounded by some of the priests that were part of like the religious legal proceeding. And then he pulls off his oxygen mask and just pukes up blood on one of them. So I guess he was starting to get like possessed too to some level, or he was really just stressed out about the situation. But they eventually find like this almost ritualistic chamber. I can't remember exactly what it was for, but it has like a torture device in there. It also then has like what was a very strong priest back in the day on like a throne, and they read his diary, and in that diary they learn the demon's name. It's Asmodeus, and he can possess a lot of different people. He's like a fucking puppet master. And Aaron, I saw this with Aaron as well as Ridley, Eli, and Tiana. Aaron made a great point. If the whole thing is you only need the demon's name in order to win, that super strong priest must have been really lacking. Like, he must have been fucking, overdosing on Xanax or something and really dropped the ball, because he literally had Asmodeus' name not only written down in the diary or written down in the book, but had a full fucking picture, hand-drawn painting with like a stylized Asmodeus name under there. So like the name was readily available, and was still unsuccessful in the exorcism and saving the day. So that guy must have fucking sucked. He must have been terrible at his job. So they learn the demon's name is Asmodeus. As they learn that, one of the other priests that was really mean to Gabrielle walks through and sees that the Lord on the crucifix is bleeding a little bit, and he's like, no! And then he takes a sabbatical and leaves for some reason. So now they have the demon's name. They then confront the demon. They're trying to like win, but the demon, starts possessing the daughter. He still has the son. He's like writing things on his chest like, God isn't here. God is not welcome. No God allowed. This is a demons only club. And he's like, strangling someone with Thomas with his tie. The demon girl that he's now possessed is like slapping the mom around. And then Gabrielle, in order to stop the madness, is like, all right, fine, just possess me. So he does. Asmodeus then possesses Gabrielle. His plan was to infiltrate the Vatican in order to cause mayhem and wreak havoc. And so he goes downstairs into the throne room and he grabs a giant scepter, and Thomas walks in like the fucking action movie hero. And then he sees the girl that he fucked from the congregation. She's got like her titties out and shit and starts fighting. They get into a fist fight. She's covered in blood. Gabrielle is still trying to fight back against Asmodeus, but it's not winning. Thomas then has like this little coin or something that he pushes on the forehead of the girl, which blows her up, literally insta-gibs her like it's Team Fortress 2. And then Gabrielle's in like a one-on-one battle with the demon. I also totally forgot a core component here because I'm getting lost in the sauce explaining it. But one of Gabrielle's big sins that the demon keeps showing him is a long time ago, there was a lady who they thought was possessed. Gabrielle went there and learned it wasn't a possession, it was a mental illness. She was just talking about like sexual abuse, trauma and stuff, and Gabrielle's like, I'm not really equipped to handle that. And then she bit the head off of a bird in front of him, and he's like, yeah, this is just mental illness. And then she ends up killing herself right in front of him, and Gabrielle feels immense regret for not helping her and working on the mental health side of exorcisms. So that's why he swore to like do that from that point forward, but he never forgave himself. So the demon's showing him that, and then after Thomas blows up that girl, they also, the sound effect they used for the blowing up was fucking fantastic. I'm actually pretty sure it came straight from Counter-Strike after you armed the bomb. It sounded outrageous. So after that, Gabrielle is wrestling with that girl, shaking her around, and then Thomas throws him like a powerful religious artifact, and he fucking sticks it on her head, throws her into like this pit of water, and then starts reading the demon's name to it and vanquishing it to hell, and saves the day. Family's safe, demons back in hell, and then we have the ending of the film, which once again brought it back to a silly bad state, where the high bishop that puked blood, I guess, is totally fine now. You know, maybe that's just something he does when he's stressed out, I guess, but like he wasn't even possessed or anything. He's just like totally fucking fine. The other priest that took a sabbatical gets replaced, and then they bring in Thomas and Gabrielle, and they're like, yeah, this was a serious situation, but it's 1 of 200. You've only solved 1 out of 200. There's still 199 more to go. Are you willing to take up the task? Like actual Marvel Avengers, Nick Fury recruiting them level shit. And Thomas is like, let's get to business. And Gabrielle reaches back for a handshake and says, let's go to hell. And that's where it ends. Literally setting it up for sequels, like a fucking Men in Black style universe for this, where they're just going to different places and performing exorcisms. So that was the whole film in a nutshell. The reason I wanted to explain all of it is because explaining it makes it sound far more fun shitty than it is. Everything I explained in theory is fun bad, but in execution is fucking awful. I don't really know what the purpose of this movie was, because like I said, it doesn't even really try to be scary or unnerving. It's actually just kind of a genuine waste of time. There are entertaining moments, like I said, there are times where it is goofy, fun, bad, but that's not the overall experience with the film. Like, there were times where we laughed at the silliness, but most of the time it was just sitting there in silence, wasting time watching it. It just didn't do anything in general. Like, it just didn't do anything. It was just kind of a fucking mess of a film where it had like DNA of all of the horror films before it, but didn't even bother to execute it in any meaningful way. It didn't even try. Like, it literally feels like they didn't try at all. That just they had some kind of contractual obligation to fulfill, so they just fucking pooped this out as quickly as possible. It really seemed like it was very rushed. But yeah, I wanted to talk about it because I was very excited to see this movie. I've talked about it on stream a few times about how like I'm really confident that this will be a fun bad movie, and I was just wrong. It really wasn't fun bad at all. So yeah, I just kind of want to talk about it a little bit and rant. That's about it. So yeah. It's pretty rare that I see a movie that's so abominable, so atrocious that I actually feel embarrassed for even having wasted my time watching it, and that phenomenon just happened with the new horror film Tarot. I was squirming in my seat. I was getting so mad at what I was watching. Like, I was steaming. My body performed an involuntary gesture of shaking my fist. Actually got him with a why I oughta. I was fuming. I started fucking Fortnite emoting in anger. That's how bad this movie was. So it's got a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, which sounds about right. And I knew going into it was going to be irredeemable garbage because it is written and directed by one of the 3 writers of Moonfall. I sing the praises of Moonfall at least once every couple months. It is one of my favorite films of all time because it is objectively one of the most dog shit films ever produced, but in the most entertaining way possible. I think it is a masterpiece disaster of a film. It is so trash that it becomes immaculate. So I love Moonfall, and Spencer Cohen, who helped write Moonfall, wrote and directed Tarot. So I knew this had no chance of being good. But I didn't expect it to be this bad, like mind-numbingly bad, in a way that sucked all of the joy out of the room. Watching this film was like a Dementor sucking my soul out for the entire hour and a half that it played. Now, of course, it was basically an empty auditorium because no one cares about this movie. No one's really, fucking jumping out of their seats to be first in line for tickets to Tarot. But it was a pretty much empty theater, and man, I was embarrassed to just be there watching it. And it was painfully obvious that all of the actors in the movie were embarrassed to be there as well. It seemed like they were ashamed that they accepted the paycheck to appear in Tarot. None of them tried at all, especially Jacob Batalon. You probably know him as Ned in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He's in this film, and oh my god, it felt like he was giving the most sarcastic performance ever. Like, all the material he was given to work with is all really shittily written, but he took it and made it like a complete flat joke throughout the entire film in a way that I think was him just giving like a subtle wink and a nod to the audience that he knows that this is a bad movie he's in. To give you an example of what I mean, Jacob, while he's being hunted by the scary clown, is trapped in an elevator, and the clown's doing his like scary routine, which ends up kind of looking like it was more of like a flash mob that the clown was doing. It wasn't even scary, it just went on for so long of him doing different bad dance moves. It's like it was trying to mimic my choreography that they see me bust out at the club, which is horrifying, no doubt. But here, in this context, man, it is so stupid and goofy. So the clown's doing all that choreography as the elevator doors are closing and opening, and Jacob's character is just going, ah, 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 almost exactly like that, until eventually the clown ambushes him and he goes, ah. He just couldn't even be bothered to pretend to care at all about the performance. Like, unironically, Matt and I's acting in our green screen merch shoots is better than anything you'll find in Tarot. And I really think that's because the actors were probably so deflated once they got the material to work with, they were probably like, oh boy. Oh brother, this guy stinks. Damn it, Steven, you've swindled me into this one. But they've already signed the contract, so now they have to commit and continue. So anyway, let's get into like the meat of the movie. It's about as generic as you will ever see in the horror movie genre. And I mean that in the truest sense of the word generic. It literally starts with them at an Airbnb, just as like a group of college friends just doing a getaway. We know nothing about these characters, only that one of them has a birthday and now they're at this haunted little Airbnb. And they happen to find this box of tarot cards, and our main character is really big into astrology. So she does this tarot card reading for the entire group using these really creepy cards that are hand-painted tarot cards, and she goes through all their signs, like, oh, you're a Capricorn, you're a, Leo, so this, that, and she gives them all their horoscope readings. And I really feel like Steven, or whoever helped them with this movie, must just be big into TikTok astrology, because it just starts borrowing a lot of things TikTok astrology enthusiasts are always talking about that's just very silly stuff, like, if you use someone else's tarot cards, oh boy howdy, you better brace for a bad time. Or, the most powerful combination of divination is using tarot card readings on top of I already forgot, a wet blanket. I forgot what the other thing was. But they mentioned that multiple times, like, doing tarot readings on top of blank is the most powerful form of divination, not to be taken lightly, type shit. So it feels like this was made for TikTok Zoomers almost. But even they, I think, are going to be extraordinarily bored by this film because it is not scary and it's just really, really dumb. I think these are the stupidest characters I have ever seen in a horror film, and I do not say that lightly, especially with horror films like Wish Upon and Slender Man. I think the characters in this movie are even stupider, if you can believe that. Now anyway, she gives everyone their horoscope readings, and it turns out that the deck is cursed. There was, back in the 1700s, a woman who was wronged and decided to place a curse upon those tarot cards where she took her own life, and now anyone that uses those tarot cards and does a horoscope will be cursed and die from it. So the horoscope readings that she was giving are starting to come true in twisted ways. So for example, one of the readings was, you'll make some money, your financial situation will improve, but then don't follow the hermit because he might lead you down the wrong track. And it turns out he gets visited by the hermit after winning $700 from a lottery scratch-off, and the hermit starts chasing him around the subway station until eventually he falls onto some train tracks and gets hit by a train. So it's like the worst diet Final Destination concept imaginable. So now they're all being hunted by their horoscope here, and they're getting killed by it, and it's so underwhelming. Oh my god, it is pitiful, the attempts that they try and make here to scare the audience. Like, there's a couple of jump scare attempts, but I feel like maybe that was like a little icky for Spencer, so he's like, no, that's too loud. That frightened me. Tone that down a bit. So not even the jump scares are enough to frighten or startle anyone, because they're not even like loud or anything, and they're not even like startling, as weird as that is to say. For example, one of their jump scare attempts, they have one of the evil creatures lurking, and he pokes his head out in front of where this girl was hiding, but it's like completely muted. It's like super muted. So it's like in slow motion. And I know it's supposed to be a jump scare because then it kicks on the music right after that happens. But like it completely missed the timing of the jump scare. And that can be said about a lot of things in this movie. So Jacob's character, his name is Paxton. He's supposed to be the comic relief character, and he draws the fool card, so that's why he gets hunted down by the evil clown. And his jokes are the worst timed jokes ever. Like, the comedic timing in this film is non-existent. Like, anytime Paxton is going to make a joke where he's like, yo, you guys are fucking, I gotta go, well, I can't think of anything he said, actually, that's about par for the course for Taro. Just had myself a Jimmy Neutron brain blast. I remember one of his jokes was, as they're doing the tarot card readings, she's asking, who wants to come up next? And he goes, I'll go to the bathroom, and then walks by her. And like, that's like the timing of that scene right there. It's so bad. And then like the whole group laughs at him like, Paxton, you got her. Oh, fried. Nice. Like, that's the level of humor they try and insert in here. It sucks. It super sucks. Oh my god. Like, everything in this movie fails. Like, all of it falls so flat on its fucking face. It's almost impressive how they couldn't even accidentally get something as simple as a jump scare right. So anyway, let's talk about why I actually started getting heated, because usually these kind of things I'd find to be like fun bad and maybe even a little bit charming, but this one was actually just making me upset. So they figure out early on that those tarot card readings that were done is most likely what's killing them. So like the birthday girl dies, she falls off a ladder after her prediction was she climbs a ladder, but be careful because there might be a crushing blow from the high priestess to, do this and that, and she dies by falling off the ladder. And then the high priestess, which looks like some kind of Party City costume that was trying to emulate like the nurse from Dead by Daylight, comes out and starts hitting her with a ladder, and she dies. And then after that was the guy who got hit by the train from the hermit, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, they're all dying kind of the same way the horoscopes said. Weird. That's probably the cause. And all of them except for one guy immediately buy into it, but they still go and visit like this old lady who they found through a Google search. The most stereotypical horror movie cliche ever. Just like a random old lady who is just the exposition vomiter. She just is present because the writer wasn't able to figure out a way to convey this story in a way that made sense. That they just have this random character that knows everything, so she explains to them and the audience exactly what's going on. And all the characters confirm, like, okay, that's 100% what's going on. Now we know. So in the readings, she kind of says, like, what you need to do to avoid being killed. Like, maybe don't follow the hermit's light because it might lead you down the wrong track. So basically it would be, all right, don't let that light scare you and lead you in different directions, and he wouldn't have fallen onto the train track, that kind of thing. So they all know this now. It's the horoscopes. And they're all very well aware of what their predictions were what her predictions were because one of the girls actually filmed her prediction. And their car breaks down, and the prediction was, technology might stop working, but don't be alarmed, just sit tight. There's no reason to run away, because else you might find yourself hanging. That kind of thing. Her card was the hangman. So the car breaks down on this bridge, and the girl is remembering, like, oh, okay, I need to not panic, and I need to not run away. But then, like, on, like, the glass, the hangman draws a hangman, and she's like, ah! Opens the door and starts running. The thing that they just reminded her and herself reminded herself of to not run, she immediately does in this inexplicable panic when what was just established seconds prior is to just sit tight and wait it out. And then she just fucking freaks out, starts running, and then ends up getting caught by the hangman and hangs. And then, even after that, Paxton, who now knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that all he needs to do to survive is to not do what the horoscopes said. And his horoscope was, don't be bullheaded and make rash decisions. And then after that hanging thing, the group gets together and he's like, I'm gonna go back to the apartment, fuck you guys, this is well, it's PG-13, he doesn't say fuck you guys, he's like, poopy to you guys, this is a bunch of baloney, I'm not gonna be caught, out and about, because it puts me at risk, so I'm gonna go back to the apartment. They're like, no, listen, Paxton, you're being bullheaded, that means you're gonna die if you go through with this, you are being bullheaded, remember with the horoscope reading? And he's like, patooey, I'm going this way. I'm gonna be bullheaded. You don't know what you're talking about. Even though, minutes ago, he just witnessed what happened when it's crazy. It's actually crazy. It's like every character here is like Drew Barrymore in 50 First Dates. They just keep forgetting things that have just happened. So, he goes being bullheaded, and what do you know? He gets attacked by the evil clown, the Fool. I actually was so mad. I had no reason to be as mad as I was, but it really felt like Spencer himself was just giving the middle finger to the whole auditorium, like, you guys are stupid for paying money for this, ha ha ha. Like, he was the ultimate evil tarot card slapped on the table here. Like, we just saw these characters describe in detail exactly what not to do, and then two characters do exactly what both of them said they will not do immediately. One of them, I guess you could write off because they got really afraid and frightened, so they stopped thinking rationally. I think that's a lame excuse for it. But Paxton, he was cool, calm, and collected, and then still just said, alright, I'm gonna go die anyway. Like, huh? Like, there's so many things I could really pick apart here, but who gives a fuck? No one's seeing this movie anyway. I know none of you watching this had any interest in it, but man, this one is actually worse than Imaginary and Night Swim. I didn't think we'd find any horror movies for the rest of the year that would compete with those, but man, this one does it. This one actually does it. It is worse than both of those films. Leave it to one of the Moonfall writers to strike a new low in the horror genre of all things. I didn't even know it was possible. But I will talk about one more thing in the movie, because it was another thing that just got me heated. So that old woman that I mentioned earlier, well, eventually the crew goes back to that house to get the tarot cards, because they eventually deduce that, hey, if we destroy the tarot cards, we probably break the curse. So they go there, get the cards, try and burn the cards don't burn. They're like, oh! They do like a fucking Mr. Beast thumbnail shock. And they're like, okay, let's call the old woman. Which, I guess that's a fine idea. But you know what happened like 30 minutes before that? They tried to call that old woman, and it turns out her phone doesn't work. Like, it just goes straight to voicemail because her phone doesn't exist anymore, which is why they drove to her fucking house and snuck up on her in the middle of the night, because she doesn't have a phone that works. Yet somehow, during this moment, not only were they able to call that old woman with a phone that didn't exist or didn't work, but she shows up instantly. She literally Goku instant transmissions to the front door there in a matter of seconds, even though it took them like an entire day to drive themselves to her previously. Like, this is just such a poorly made movie from top to bottom. Nobody gave a shit at all. Like, I don't know what you were thinking with this one, Spencer. I really don't. Moonfall is a beautiful disaster. This one is a tragic disaster. It's so shit. So the old woman shows up, and I'm like, okay, she's going to be like really helpful here. She's going to be instrumental. So she sets up like this ritual where she was going to reverse the tarot card readings to try and flip it on the evil entity, the old woman who was wronged and cursed the deck. And as she's doing it, the old woman immediately just gets possessed. Like, she gets force choked by the evil entity and then stabbed with 6 swords. Because the evil entity did a tarot card reading on her where she drew the 6 swords card, whatever the fuck that is. And she's like, uh-oh, whoops-a-daisy. So then literally force grabbed and then drops her corpse with 6 swords in it in the middle of like the hallway. And that was the entire role of the old woman. That's it. She showed up just to get stabbed 6 times and contribute nothing. So eventually our main character's like, what if I get a horoscope reading for the evil entity? And like, yeah, that kind of makes sense if you turn your brain off. Why would that work? It's her tarot cards. She is the curse. If she doesn't want to curse herself, She won't. It doesn't matter if you do a horoscope reading. She is the tarot cards. But anyway, she does this reading on the evil entity, and she draws death as the final card. And the entity looks down, I shit you not, as she's strangling the main character. She looks down and goes... and then immediately just gets fucking deatomized. So somehow her reading also killed her, even though she is the reading. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And it's even more criminally trash with the way that it wraps itself up, because it turns out Paxton didn't die. So Paxton cruises up in his car in the middle of the night after they defeat the evil entity by giving her a horoscope reading. And he's like, hey guys, I'm like actually totally fine. I was trying to reach you guys. You guys weren't answering. What's up with that? And they're like, how did you survive? And he's like, oh yeah, my roommate opened the elevator door and like scared the jester away. He thought it was like super weird. He was like really wondering what was going on with me. Like, okay, so that's how you beat it? Like, you could just have your roommate come up and, like, throw the whole thing into disarray? Like, it's all cattywampus? Like, the whole curse doesn't work if there's a witness to it all of a sudden? Like, what? That seems like the easiest thing to do. Like, you probably wouldn't even need to turn the curse around on the evil entity. You could just have his goofy-ass roommate follow you around and save you every time. It's just so dumb. The movie was so fucking bad. Oh, I can't wait to see what else Spencer works on, because man, he's got a really incredible batting average here with terrible trash movies. Anyway, I think 5% for this movie is about what I'd give it on the Moist Meter too. I have to agree with Rotten Tomatoes on this one. 5% for Tarot, absolutely accurate. What a bad film. That's about it. See ya. Off rip, I want to make it crystal clear. I love fun and whimsy. For some reason now, there's a lot of people that point at me and say, look, it's that petite freak that hates fun and whimsy. And I gotta tell you, you got the wrong guy, pal. You know, you're no Dick Gumshoe. I love fun and whimsy. I'm a big enjoyer of smiles and laughter and quirkiness. Lord help me, I'd even say a dash of zaniness too can wet my whistle. That being said, I just saw the new scary movie, Pooh. I didn't like that very much, which sucks to say because this franchise holds a special place in my heart. Of course, not counting Scary Movie 5, that's one that you flushed down the shitter and forgot that one ever got made. But 1 through 4, I think, in very, very good films. I watched them tons of times. And I know a lot of people like to besmirch the good name of 3 and 4, but I think that's criminal because those movies are also still good. I still had a great time with both of those too. But this one, I just found so little to like. I didn't laugh, like actually laugh out loud once. And it's really unfortunate because when this got announced, I was hopeful that it would be good, but if I'm being honest, I was pessimistic because modern comedies are flatter than my ass, and I'm cheeked up like Hank Hill. So modern comedies have just not been hitting. But when Naked Gun came out last year, I was pleasantly surprised. I had a great time with the new Naked Gun movie, so that brought a glimmer of hope to this project for me. Because Naked Gun proved you can do spoof movies in the modern day and make them good. That movie tried and succeeded, and I thought, maybe it's not as good as the OGs, but I was laughing. I had a good time with it. And Scary Movie, I was like, okay, there's a chance. Man, did they fumble that. This is probably one of the laziest movies I've ever seen. And it knows that and even tries to play that off as purposeful comedy. But the joke is on you, the person who paid money to watch it. Because it doesn't even really deliver jokes so much as, hey guys, do you recognize this? That's the joke. Let me give you an example. This movie doesn't really have a story. The story is the legacy characters, they have kids now, and they get brought back together because the ghost face killer is out there killing, and now everyone's teamed up again. That's established in the first 20 minutes, and they're all together again. It then spends the next hour just giving you a montage of fucking Saturday Night Live skits. And I'm not really a fan of that style. Now, I'm sure there are plenty of people that are. In my theater, there was like 3 dudes that were laughing like audibly. It was a pretty full theater, and there wasn't like a ton of like, actual belly laughing, but there was like 3 dudes that were having a fucking amazing time. I'll tell you that much. So like, it definitely is someone's cup of tea, just not mine. And like, let's take Scary Movie 3, for example. I actually really like Scary Movie 3. And even though that is clearly a storyline that's very silly, it's a storyline that is still telling you a story. There's characters, there's a plot, and even though the characters also don't take it overly serious all the time or anything, it is still something that is substantive in the film. In this, there isn't even that. They get them together, and then it is just a montage of like, here's our characters in this horror movie that you recognize. And sometimes they don't even add jokes to the horror movies that they're making a parody of. Like example, there's a scene with the Terrifier Mall Santa moment. And they just kind of do it exactly the same. The difference now is the kids' presents have severed body parts. But the thing is, you see Darman fam, in Terrifier, him as the Mall Santa, that is already played as a joke. This movie just does the exact same joke, 1-to-1. The only thing they change is the presents, their body parts. Okay. I guess it doesn't add anything to it or anything, and it also goes for far longer than it should. And there's multiple instances of that, where they'll take something that was already comedic from the horror movie they're parodying, and they just do that scene. Now, that's not to say all of them do that, because there are moments where they do try and inject humor into some of the stuff. I just don't think it lands most of the time. It's just very, like, dated. The very, very, like, morsels of a plot in this film are based around Scream 5. Scream 5 was 2 fucking Screams ago. And a lot of the references they make, that happened years ago. Like, and not even as like a oh, ball knowers get it. It's like that was like a meme a while ago. That's kind of cringe. And then they try and like lean into cringe, like they do a weapons reference where the kids are high and one of them says 6'7" while running with their arms out, and then gets hit by a car because 6'7's cringe, and then the kid's body flies across the moon going, ah. It's just that kind of thing. It's clear they didn't even want to try. It feels very soulless and feels like a cash grab. And even the iconic characters reprising their roles here, they don't get pretty much anything to do. Some of them are killed off almost immediately. It feels very underwhelming and just very disappointing. And it also confuses being meta for being comedic. I would say the bulk of the jokes that it tries to make are just like fourth wall break, talking to the audience. Like, anyone remember in Scary Movie 1? Or they'll even just directly say like, it's because of Scary Movie 3 and Scary Movie 4. We didn't make that one. And that's like the joke. Oh, they're referencing something I know. But they're not making a joke about it or anything. They're just saying it like, I get that. That's what I mean by being lazy. And another thing is, the marketing I saw for this movie, they were talking about pushing the envelope and how it's going to offend everyone. Like, it's really going to go hog wild. Everyone's going to walk away offended and upset. But this movie is squeaky clean. It is extremely inoffensive. And I'm not saying it needs to be offensive to be a home run or something, but if you're going to puff out your chest and brag about the hair on it, fuck your feelings, we're going to say what we want to say, everyone's going to be offended, I'd expect you to actually do that. The movie doesn't at all. But anyway, the movie just doesn't even really seem to try to build any laughs. It's a scary movie, so of course you're expecting some stupid and dumb stuff, but the scary movies have always walked a really fine line where the stupid and dumb is part of the charm. Here, it just feels like a crutch, where it's stupid, it's supposed to be stupid. So, you're wrong for not laughing at it. I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it tried at all, and just falls back on that. Which is fine, because it's going to work for some people. In fact, I know for 100% certainty it does, because there are people laughing during the showing I was at. And that's totally fine. But for me, I would have just liked more. I would have loved to see them actually give a real effort here to earn some laughs and deliver something actually of high quality, as opposed to just being content fucking rapid firing spitballs at the wall with characters that are more interested in speaking to the audience than the other characters in their scene, or interacting or engaging with one another in any way that isn't just an outdated reference to something. They do some of like the most tired, exhausted gags, like Cindy going, when or why, like at the sky and spinning in a circle, and then she gets dizzy. Bro, come on. Like, it's not even they do that ironically. That is just one of their jokes. It's not as like a ironic, satirical take on that trope. They just do that. And they do a bunch of things like that. Like, I don't like shitting on it because, like I said, I really like the franchise, but this is just as unenjoyable as 5 was. And I hate saying that. I really do. But I just don't understand why after all this time they wouldn't really try to put a lot of effort into making something good. Because they can. Naked Gun proves that it's not like it's some forgotten art. You could definitely make something great out of this. Anyway, I didn't love it. If you had a great time hooting and hollering at it, all power to you. Happy to hear you had fun. But yeah, that's really about it. So yeah.
Not too long ago, Winnie the Pooh entered the public domain, meaning anyone's welcome to use him and the characters for their own work as long as it's somewhat original. The only character that still remains forbidden is Tigger. They're keeping that copyright under lock and key, but every other beloved character in the 100-acre wood you're welcome to go hog wild with. You can make your own Winnie the Pooh cinematic universe if you'd so choose. I absolutely love the public domain. Sometimes you get decent stuff out of it, but 9 times out of 10, something going to the public domain leads to the absolute most abominable, revolting creations humanity is capable of producing. And I think it's just delightful. And we're already seeing this effect in full force because there's a new Winnie the Pooh horror movie on the horizon called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Let's go ahead and check out the trailer here. The plot, I think, is outstanding. Seems like something that'd be written by Stephen King himself. Christopher Robin has abandoned Pooh and the gang, and they're upset. So now they're coming for skulls. They've gone rabid. So one thing you'll probably immediately pick up on is the budget looks like it was $40. That's kind of standard for works that use public domain for some reason. You never really see huge budget works that borrow from the public domain, at least not as like the core focus. But that doesn't matter. You see, there's always a certain charm to these things.
We need to go. Laura's dead. There's someone else outside.
Now, there's no CGI here. This is all practical effects, if you can believe it. This is a real costume and someone underneath it, but it looks so good you probably thought it really was the actual Winnie the Pooh come to life. I love the costume design here. This seems like something they found in a Party City dumpster that vaguely resembled Winnie the Pooh and then hatched the idea for a horror movie centered around it.
What was that?
Winnie the Pooh out here looking like the original Sonic the Hedgehog design from the movie. It actually kind of reminds me of the SpongeBob porn parody, SpongeNob Square Nuts. Now, you know me, I'm a real positive Patty, so I don't like to be the one to nitpick things, but if I was to critique this masterpiece here, I would say that my biggest problem with it is that it doesn't really look like Winnie the Pooh and the crew hunting down and murdering people. It just seems like people found things that vaguely resembled Winnie the Pooh's team, and they're dressing up in costume and killing people at the house. So it loses the effect of Winnie the Pooh, like the actual Pooh Bear, killing people, and just becomes like, oh, it's someone dressing up like him. So it's not as cool, I don't think. It probably would have been better if they just did shitty CGI or even like hand puppets. You know, that could be kind of wild. Claymation, even. But just having like regular looking like human bodies with a Winnie the Pooh mask, it's not really the same thing as like Winnie the Pooh's no longer addicted to honey. Now he's addicted to blood and cum, you know? It loses all of that
mystique. I realize I'm not doing a great job of explaining what I mean. I just sound like someone that believes Winnie the Pooh is real. What I'm trying to say is, all they're using is a mask, right? Like, the body is still very human-like. Like, they just have normal clothes on. Like, Piglet's wearing a fucking trench coat, you know? He just looks like some edgelord from a video game, but he has a pig mask on. You know, nothing tells me that that's Piglet. I wouldn't see this trailer and immediately think it's Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. I'd think, oh, it's just a normal slasher movie and they're using a pig in bear mask. They should have done at least the bare minimum of giving Piglet, like, little hooves, you know, instead of just, like, normal hands. Because, like, when they have the sledgehammer or the axe, whatever it is, it's just normal hands. He's got gloves on. He's got fucking 5 fingers and gloves on. You know, instead of, like, little piggy stuff. You know, little piggy appendages. So, again, it just feels like it's normal people and wearing masks. It doesn't feel like it's fucking Winnie the Pooh's team, you know, that's come together to purge. And I feel like that's what they should have gone for.
Be friends, why are you doing this, please? I would have never left, I swear.
Yeah, overall, I know this movie's gonna be a big stinker, but I can't wait for it, because I'm thinking it's going to be, like, enjoyably bad. It looks like it's made with a high level of self-awareness that they know that it's fucking stupid, but they're fully embracing it, so I can respect that. I, again, just wish they had sold the idea that it's Winnie the Pooh and his friends a bit more, instead of just having it be people with Winnie the Pooh cheap costumes from Walmart. You know, there's definitely a better way of doing it, I think. But I'll try and remain somewhat optimistic here. Winnie the Pooh is a property that's awfully close to home for me. I, of course, used to watch the cartoon. I even had a couple of the games. I had a lot of Winnie the Pooh merch, so I was a big Pooh Bear fan. And I'd love to see him really make the leap into the big screen in a big way. A way that I haven't seen him before, you know? It's time Winnie the Pooh adapt. Maybe they make this a really deep plot, like something really interesting, a compelling narrative where they ran out of honey in the 100-acre wood, and honey was the only thing that, like, calmed the mind of Pooh. Like, Pooh entered the 100-acre wood as a serial killer, piling up mangled corpses for years, like one of the biggest war criminals this planet's ever seen. But once he found that special honey in the 100-acre wood, it calmed him down, you know, simmered him down, and, you know, he became a really nice guy. But now that they're out of honey, he's gone back to those primal instincts, and he's back killing again. There's really just a lot they could do here. Maybe Christopher Robin revisit the 100-acre woods after Winnie the Pooh's killed his wife and his friends at the house, and he's trying to figure out, how do I beat this manic, fucking bloodthirsty demon? And that's when Eeyore falls out of a tree. He's missing all of his limbs, eyes popped out of the socket. There's blood, viscera everywhere. He's got tears in his eyes, and he says, as he's crawling his way there with his one limb, using it like a peg leg, he says, "Christopher, the only thing to stop Pooh is Pooh himself." And that's when it connects in Christopher's mind. The neurons start firing. He's like, the honey. That's what Pooh loved the most. So then Christopher Robin has to biologically engineer new honey and then beat Pooh with it. I don't know. There's just plenty they could do besides just use cheap fucking costumes and sledgehammers in a house, right? Like, they could get a lot more creative with it, and I hope they somehow do, but this trailer just seems like the most generic, low-budget slasher ever invented, but with Winnie the Pooh's mask. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure that's exactly what we're going to get, something that just capitalizes off the shock of Winnie the Pooh being a killer. So just trying to use it as like a little marketing thing, like, here's a pretty standard horror movie gore fest, but look, it's Winnie the Pooh. Give us some money. And I'm sure they will be profitable, because if they sell more than 10 tickets, I'm sure they made back their budget. And I'm going to be one of the people watching this movie. So, you know, I'm going to give it a try. I love to see shit enter the public domain, especially something as influential as Winnie the Pooh. This is a huge one, so I'm excited to see the first use of it here, and hopefully it's a fun, bad movie instead of just like a boring one. Or maybe I'll be completely surprised and it's an amazing movie. We'll have to wait and see, but anyway, I just wanted to talk about it a little bit because it's pretty silly. That's about it. So yeah. Wow. Yeah, I just saw the Winnie the Pooh horror movie, Blood and Honey, and it is without exaggeration one of the stinkiest horror films I've ever had the pleasure of watching, and undoubtedly in the top 10 worst films I've ever seen in theaters, which is truly an honor because I've seen all kinds of worthless, absolute trash. Now, I'm sure you all know Winnie the Pooh's public domain now, which is why this film was able to be made in the first place. This isn't like an official Winnie the Pooh production. It's not canon. This isn't going to be part of the established Winnie the Pooh lore. The property went to the public domain Thunderdome, meaning anybody could use and abuse it freely. So a lot of people tried to latch on to the tit and suckle some milk out of the power of the IP. And this led to this production here. It was a very cheap one that was haphazardly thrown together, clearly trying to capitalize off the wackiness of its concept. What if Winnie the Pooh killed people? And that's about it. That's as far as the creativity goes. And it's very clear they rushed the fuck out of this because nothing works. This is the laziest, most unapologetic cash grab I've ever seen in my life. But it doesn't even have the decency to be self-aware. It is bad at everything it tries to do, and it doesn't even do it with like a smile on its face. Of course, I knew going into this it was going to be bad. Anyone with eyes could see that this would be dog shit. I mean, just look at the costume. They didn't even bother putting any effort into Winnie the Pooh or Piglet. They just found the cheapest masks available at Party City, and then just had two guys wearing the masks. That's it. They also have human hands. And also, a lot of times, the mask kind of rides up a little bit, so you can just see like a normal human actor underneath the mask. It's just a disaster. This is one of the few films where I actually took notes during it because I felt like I was so insulted and I couldn't believe what I was watching. So I jotted down a few notes during this, also because it was basically just me and Aaron in this movie theater watching it together, fucking stunned by what we were witnessing. It is truly a catastrophe on every level, but I will openly say, it was fun bad. It was. I'm happy to report it wasn't boring bad. Its sheer incompetence and its inability to do anything right while not being self-aware made it a fun, enjoyably shit film. So I'd like to walk you through a lot of what happens here. Clearly we're going to get in spoiler territory, so fair warning, though I don't know why you'd give a fuck about spoilers for this kind of movie. It's not exactly heavy on the narrative at all. So let's go ahead and dive in. Just to give you a quick example of how much they cared about doing this cheaply, they don't have Winnie or Piglet talk. They clearly wanted to save money on the budget by not having additional voice actors try and impersonate Winnie or Piglet, so they came up with this. During a harsh winter, Winnie the Pooh hatched this genius idea to eat Eeyore in order to save the rest of them. So they sacrifice Eeyore for the greater good, they eat him, and then take a vow of silence because they were so traumatized by what they had done to their friend. So they never speak. So that saved them some money. The story is as follows. Christopher Robin meets Winnie and the gang in the 100-acre wood. They're friends for a while, but Christopher Robin goes off to college, and during that time, the group goes fucking hog wild. They go insano style. Their minds break. They turn to madness and they become these ferocious killing machines for some reason because they felt abandoned by Christopher Robin. But Christopher Robin is now engaged and he wants to bring his fiancée into everything that was important in his life, which includes Winnie and the gang. So they visit the 100-acre wood looking for them, and his fiancée doesn't believe him. But then we get like Darman level acting throughout the entire film, but immediately it starts to shine because his wife is like, "You are so successful because you are creative. And even if these are imaginary friends, that business that you have made and you being as creative as you have been has led to you being one of the best people in the world, Christopher Robin. But I'm not sure if they're real." And Christopher's like, "But no, fiancé, these are real." And then sure enough, they eventually stumble upon the cabin. And then Piglet grabs a chain and strangles his wife till she dies. And then Christopher Robin gets cornered by Pooh and Piglet, and he drops what I believe to be one of the most iconic lines in horror movies now. He says, "Pooh, you've got to help me. Something's wrong with Piglet. He killed my wife." and then that's when it sinks in on Christopher Robin that they're all, off their gourd. So Pooh and Piglet start closing in on Christopher Robin as he's yelling and screaming. And he's saying, we were friends, but we were friends. We were friends. What happened to us being friends?" And then they kidnap him, and that's the intro. A fierce and fiery start to this one. And I'd like to mention that the two actors in the Winnie and Piglet costumes, I wouldn't be surprised to learn that they're like 80 years old. Because they move around so fucking slow. Especially Pooh Bear. Pooh Bear fee-fi-fo-fums around like he's carrying 1,000 pounds on each ankle. I thought for a second every time they moved, they slowed down the footage by like half. Like they moved at 0.5 speed. It really looks like they're riddled with arthritis. Every movement they make is extremely stiff. When they kill somebody, it's almost like animatronic to a certain degree. Like, it's so jarring. I would have expected them to be a little more limber since they're supposed to be like these crazy, agile, unstoppable killing machines. But my god, they are painfully slow and stiff. It's weird. But anyway, moving on. So that's the intro done. And then we get to our main characters. And I couldn't even tell you any of their names because it just genuinely wasn't important. They are actual just meat balloons for Winnie and Piglet to pop. So it's a group of girls that go to this cabin in the 100-acre wood for a vacation. And this is a no technology vacation. They want to go off the grid, you know, like in fucking witness protection, basically. So they turn their phones off and everything is when they get to the cabin. But unfortunately, one of their friends was a little late, so when she was calling them to ask for directions, they didn't answer. So she pulled over outside, like next to the cabin a little far down the road, and was trying to get them to answer. And as she's calling, Pooh Bear spots her. And this is very bad because Pooh Bear's got a taste for blood and he's gluttonous. So Pooh Bear starts chasing her down like this. The girl's screaming. She eventually makes it to some kind of like warehouse and takes cover underneath a wood chipper. You can see where this is going. As she's hiding, Pooh happens to find her. And I shit you not, I swear this is going to sound like I'm making up, but I'm not. Pooh grabs her and then rips her shirt off. And then her tits are flopping all over the place for a minute, and Pooh's like moving her around so her tits kind of jiggle. And then he starts slamming her head against the wood chipper till she dies, and then he puts her in the wood chipper to make a blood sundae out of. So it's shooting all of her blood and guts out of the wood chipper, and that's it. I don't understand what the point was in Pooh Bear stripping her nude, basically. Well, I guess not fully nude, making her topless. I don't really get it. I thought this was going to be like some kind of narrative plot point where like he sees her tits and his eyes just go like awooga or something to indicate that he's like a pervert, like truly just the most, you know, reprehensible menace of all time. But it played no role in anything because Pooh doesn't talk, he has no emotion, he has no real character, he just kills. So what the fuck was a point in just like having her tits all over the place for like 20 seconds? And that's another thing. All of these kills, the directors confused tension with just general time and dead silence and dead space. So when she's hiding, it is painfully long of her just sitting there and Pooh's feet by the door. It'll go on for like 45 seconds of nothing happening. It's not building tension, it's just overstaying its welcome and it's just dead space. It's fucking worthless. And that's for every single kill. The director really just thought like holding a still frame of something in the background is building tension, and it's just not. It was just really mind-numbingly boring, and it really lasted a long time. Like in the intro, when Christopher Robin was saying, but we were friends, and Piglet and Pooh were coming in, that scene was probably about 2 minutes of them standing there, slowly getting closer, as Christopher Robin repeated the same 5 lines over and over again, like it was an NPC malfunctioning in a video game. It was painful how long those scenes would drag. But anyway, moving on, so that girl got thrown in the wood chipper. Back at the cabin, one of the girls is an Instagram model, so she's in her downtime playing music in a hot tub, and while Pooh Bear is dispensing of like this corpse, this skeleton of one of their victims, he hears the music, so he looks around, and then he sees the hot tub. So as she's taking Instagram pictures, you can see Pooh in the background, and the girl notices that too, and she's like, oh, what the fuck is this? That's a weird looking creature back there. So then she turns around, literally knows Pooh is there and knows that it's some kind of fucked up abomination back there, and she's like, I know you're there, but you're not gonna ruin my vacation, or what was the line? You're not gonna ruin my hot tub or something? I don't know, it was a terrible line, but she recognizes that there is a complete stranger in these fucking woods, this giant fucking animal recognizes that, and then just says, you're not gonna ruin my time, so she gets back in the hot tub, where she gets chloroformed by Piglet and Pooh Bear. So then they fucking hog tie on the front porch and then steal one of their cars, and Piglet puts his foot on her while Pooh Bear slowly drives over her skull, and then you get a close-up of her skull slowly exploding so her eye pops out at the camera, and then blood starts squirting, and they're using the worst CGI of all time for the blood squirting, and eventually her head just pops and blows up. The genre that this movie's in is torture porn, pretty much. Like, that is basically all it is. It's just Winnie and Piglet torturing and killing people. I even forgot to mention that Christopher Robin is being tortured by Pooh. He was hitting him with Eeyore's tail, just like fucking flogging him with it. And this is what I'm talking about with a lot of things they try, they didn't even bother to follow through on. There's a moment where Christopher Robin's like, I know you're still good in there, Pooh. This isn't you. You killed my wife, but I know you're still good in there. And then Pooh has this moment where he, like, cries, and then he breaks some boxes, and then he looks at himself in the mirror, and then he goes back to hitting him with Eeyore's tail. And it's never explored again. Like, ever. At all. Like, there's just this brief moment of vulnerability, but then he goes right back to just being this two-dimensional killing machine. So now, back to the cabin. They blow up that girl's head with the car. It turns out all of the other girls, for some reason, spread out across the land, so two of them are by, like, a pond talking. Another two of them are literally, like, doing nothing. Just standing around doing nothing. But they hear their friend scream, and they all run back to the cabin. They see her corpse. They freak out. They go inside, and Pooh is written "Get out" in blood on the window. So now they recognize they're being hunted, they're under attack, and they're trying to find things to defend themselves with. And then the main girl remembers that she brought a gun with her on this vacation. Her backstory is she had a stalker, so she's been a little scared of things, so she has a gun. And when she mentioned that, both Aaron and I thought it was going to be like a Glock or something, like a normal gun, you know, like a normal kind of gun that you see in movies. Well, it turns out the gun she brought is a fucking revolver. But not just any revolver. It's like a goddamn six-shooter straight out of Overwatch. Like, she was fucking McCree. She had this giant goddamn revolver. She came out here with that big iron on her hip. So she pulls out this massive revolver, a fucking 50 caliber hand cannon, and they're like, okay, now we can defend ourselves. But then they still split up. And so the girl with the revolver and her friend, they get into like a sniper's perch, and Pooh is just standing in the middle, like looking down, looking all confused, as they have like a clear shot on him, but they're not taking it for some reason. Then Pooh walks into the kitchen. So then we go to the other group of two girls that for some reason split off near the pool, and Piglet's over there, and they freak out. One of the girls falls in the pool. The other one, Piglet pushes, and she gets knocked unconscious. And then Piglet, fuck, it is so hard to describe how awful this is. Piglet is after the girl in the pool, and he has a chain and a sledgehammer, and he starts like slapping the chain against the pool water, trying to get her, and the girl's like moving backwards, like slowly in the pool as Piglet's hitting the water, and this goes on for like 2 minutes. It's terrible. And then eventually he's like, this isn't working, I'm gonna get the sledgehammer. And while he's getting the sledgehammer, the girl, instead of like getting out of the pool, like a normal logical decision, like getting out of the pool and running away while he's getting the sledgehammer, she instead like gets closer to him in the pool. And I thought this was going to be like a fight back moment where she's going to like grab the chain and yank him in and try and kill him. But no, she just gets closer to him as he gets the sledgehammer. Then he gets the sledgehammer and she starts backing up again in the pool, like slowly swimming her way back. And then Piglet hits her with the sledgehammer and kills her. And then the girl that got knocked out from the push, they take and chain up back at their camp. And Winnie the Pooh slaps her after eating some honey. So he's eating some honey. The girl wakes up. He notices she wakes up and he slaps her. And he slaps her again, and then he slaps her again, and then he slaps her again, and then he slaps her again. It goes on for like a fucking minute. That's what I'm talking about. All of these scenes last for so long, and it's so unnecessary. It does nothing. It doesn't make it more tense. It doesn't make it more brutal. It just makes it really fucking weird and uncomfortable. Anyway, that's another one of the vacationing girls dead. Don't even know her name. None of these characters had any level of depth to them whatsoever. The other two girls that have the revolver and her friend, they try and, you know, track down where her friend got taken. They eventually track it back to Winnie the Pooh and Piglet's hideout. And there's now another girl that's been captured and she's screaming. So they free her and she's been mauled by Piglet, so her face is all fucked up and it makes her mad. Then they free Christopher Robin as well at some point, who's still alive, just being tortured. So now they have Christopher Robin freed and this completely random girl that also happened to get tortured by Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. And the girl whose face is all messed up from Piglet grabs the gun and says, I'm going to make that bastard pay for this. So then she shoots a shot in order to lure Piglet out, and he comes out from a fucking trailer, and he's got his chain, and they're circling around a fire in what I expect they thought would be a cool action moment, like a cool action shot. So they're circling this fire. He's got a chain, she's got a gun, and she's ready to go fucking John Wick on him. but then she tries to shoot him, and it's out of bullets. It turns out the girl only packed a single bullet in that revolver, which leads me to believe that her plan for the vacation was to play fucking Russian roulette with her friends. Why would she only load a single bullet into the revolver? And that's not even the stupidest part about that scene. Because they freed that girl, they freed Christopher Robin, Piglet and Pooh had no idea that was going on. I think they both went to sleep for some reason. They could have all left. But when the girl took the revolver and said, I want to make Piglet pay, the other two girls, well, three because they had freed her friend, the other three girls just decided to watch. So they get in the closest proximity they can to this showdown, which happens to be a single keg, like an actual beer keg they hide behind, and they're watching it, like peeking over the side while this complete random woman has their gun and is about to shoot Piglet. They all just came over to watch. For no reason. They could have just left. They could have left, and they would have survived. They would have been fine. But they decided to be spectators here, and it's like an episode of Scooby-Doo. Like, they couldn't help it. They're just peeking over to watch it go down. So once it's clear that the girl's out of ammo, Winnie the Pooh comes up behind her, knocks her down, pours honey on her face, and Piglet eats her face off. And that's when Pooh notices that the three other girls happen to be behind that keg of beer watching. So then he's like coming at them like this. And two of the girls run away, but the other one hides and grabs a sledgehammer and ambushes Piglet. And she hits Piglet twice in order to get revenge for the friend that she killed. The other two girls are running through the forest, which is, I believe, miles away. Like, they ran miles, like, in a matter of seconds, and Pooh's following them like a goddamn robot. But after Piglet gets hit twice, he screams, and Pooh hears this miles away, and somehow Pooh instantly teleports back to the camp, and right after that girl delivers the killing blow on Piglet, Winnie the Pooh kills her by stabbing a machete through her throat and hanging her up on a post. Every character in this movie has super speed or like Dragon Ball Z level instant transmission because they're teleporting all over this place. They'll teleport from the cabin to the Pooh hideout to the woods, back to the cabin, all in a matter of actual seconds. It's fucking crazy. But anyway, now we're down to our last two survivors. Piglet's dead. Pooh's very upset about all of this. Sorry, just checking my notes, making sure I didn't miss anything. I'm skipping over some other shit. Like, it's so bafflingly fucking terrible. But anyway, the next important plot point is the two girls make it to a road, and there's a pickup truck of some goofy dudes in there. One of them comes out looking like the fucking crypt keeper, and they're like, what's wrong with you girls? You're not making any sense. What do you mean you're scared? Who are you scared of? And then Pooh's on the road, and they're like, you scared of this joker, this clown? All right, we'll get in the car. We'll take care of this. And they march up to him with baseball bats, beer bottles, and a crowbar. And they're like, hey, bub, what did you do to scare these girls? You're not a nice guy, are you? So then they start beating up Pooh Bear, and he's just tanking all of the shots. And then I wrote down how he kills them because it's so wild. So after it becomes clear that what they're doing is ineffective, Pooh slaps the entire side of someone's face off. Like, literally turns him into Harvey Dent, Two-Face, slaps the side of the guy's face off, which kills him, and then he karate chops another guy's arm off, and then curb stomps him. Then he karate slices another guy's throat open, killing him, and then the last guy, he summons a swarm of bees to kill. So Pooh Bear can control bees in this universe, I guess, and he uses that to kill that guy who runs away. Then the girls freak out, but they have a car now, and they try and get away in the car, but Pooh's latched on to the back, and then they brake real hard. Pooh flies off, but for some reason they broke so hard that their heads hit the dash and they pass out. So then one of the friends gets grabbed by Pooh, and then he rips her head off and then throws it on the windshield. And then our protagonist turns on the windshield wipers because the blood was gross, I guess, which is so stupid, so fucking dumb, because I guess she was still going to try and get away and couldn't see with their friend's head in the windshield. But she wasn't able to clean it off fast enough and start the car, so Pooh grabs her, and he's about to kill her, but then Christopher Robin comes speeding in another vehicle and hits Pooh, which stuns him, but it doesn't kill him, so then Pooh grabs that girl one more time, slits her throat in front of Christopher Robin, and then says the only line that Pooh and Piglet have, and he says, "You left us." And then, after, kills the girl, slits her throat, and then just starts stabbing her a million times as Christopher Robin cries and runs away. Roll credits. I just summed up the whole movie for you. That is the whole movie. I am convinced that they were padding for time with all of those very long, drawn-out sections of, like, nothing happening. I think that was in order to fill time, in order to make like the bare minimum for a feature-length film, because this movie is fucking short. Like, way shorter than I would have ever expected. It's over in like a single blink of the eye. And everything that happens is so half-baked and terrible. All of it looks terrible. None of what they even attempted to do lands in even the singlest, slightest capacity. I thought this would be self-aware goofiness. It's not self-aware. It is goofy, but for all the wrong reasons, which almost makes it better. Like I said, it is enjoyably bad. It is fun bad. It's no Moonfall, unfortunately, but I did enjoy my time watching it. It was something special. Like, oh bother! I tell you, this one was a super stinker. And I just had to come home and vent about it and talk about it because holy shit. It has a 5% on Rotten Tomatoes, which I actually agree with. It's very rare I agree with Rotten Tomatoes scores. That one's right on the money. 5% sounds about right. The audience score of 51%, though, I can't understand because it is enjoyably shit. Like, it is a fun, bad movie. It's something wild. That's about it. So, yeah. Yeah, I saw this movie last night. I'm sure almost none of you had any interest in seeing this, but I still have to rant about it anyway. It's not a horror movie per se, but I think it kind of billed itself as one, so I went into it expecting it to be one, and I think most people are under the impression. It's one of the sillier films of the year. I don't think it's worse than Tarot. I don't think it's worse than The Strangers, but man, this was still so bad. And what's really cute is that it actually has the old lady from Tarot. So she now has an incredibly stacked 2024, where she has now been in 2 unbelievably atrocious stinkers. And that's kind of admirable. And she plays the exact same character in this movie as she did in Tarot for the most part. The premise is cool. So I actually like the premise. The premise is basically Dakota Fanning, she finds herself in the forest after a pet delivery gone wrong. And she stumbles upon this weird building with these 3 strangers in there. And every night, they have to lock themselves in and they get watched by mysterious entities on the outside that they can't see, they can only hear. And it lends itself well to some kind of cool mystery. But does anyone care about spoilers? I can't imagine anyone really gives a fuck. Like, is anyone to shake their fist at me? Like, how dare you? If I get into spoilers? Okay, most people are saying no, they don't care about spoilers. If you care about spoilers, my apologies. You can write a strongly worded letter to the manager. So, the film has a cool premise. And about halfway through the movie, probably not even halfway through the movie, they kind of just immediately show their whole ass and they tell you what the Watchers are. And you get to see the Watchers. And they're basically just like these generic tall Slendermen. And it turns out they're fairies. Like evil fairies. And then the movie dives into like actual Tumblr fanfic. Where it's like, before the war, there was humans and fairies living in peaceful symbiosis. We coexisted with the fairies together. But we feared their shape-shifting abilities, how they could become us. So we ripped off their wings and we forced them underground and we locked them under a stone. And now, they can't leave this forest because we asked them not to, basically. So, what they're being watched by is fairies that study them so that way they can take their shape better. It's so fucking dumb. This is not yeah. So it's not M. Night Shyamalan, it is his daughter. This is a Shyamalan family production, basically. And in classic Shyamalan fashion, it's a cool premise that they had nothing good to do with it, past the idea, like the ideation. So let me just start breaking down some scenes for you. So, shit just happens for the sake of it happening without any explanation for why this shit is happening. So it starts off okay because the premise is fun. And then as things start to unfold, Dakota Fanning is rebellious and she's got a dark and mysterious past. And she decides to start breaking the rules that the old woman has set. One of the rules is don't go into the burrows because that's where the Watchers come out. And she goes into the burrows with the help of this guy. I forgot his name.
She goes into the burrows and she sees like bicycles and like children's toys and stuff. And then all hell breaks loose because the fairies start shape-shifting. But they know this. Like, there's no explanation given, really, like a good one, for why the fairies can't leave the forest. They could just walk out of the forest. There is an explanation given for why they can't leave, the humans here, because they're lost and they can't be out at night because the fairies hunt at night and they don't like the sun. They're like fucking vampires. So they can't leave the forest. I get that. That makes sense. But the fairies, the only explanation for why they can't leave the forest is because they were forced underground 1,000 or like fucking thousands of years ago. But they could just walk out. Like, there's no magical force field preventing that. They could just walk the fuck out and then dig a hole. Like, they're afraid of the sun, walk out during the night, dig a hole, stay there during the day, get out of the hole, walk out in the night, dig more holes. It turns out there was a professor who built this building and who built this bunker underneath the building because he's been studying the fairies. And this was highly unnecessary to even include in there. They just wanted to make him like an evil guy. He's like, he recorded himself with this webcam. He's like, sailor's log, 2009. I started construction on the bunker. I hired locals from the town nearby for fucking 5 schmeckles an hour to build it for me. And I urged them to stay out at night so they'd get mauled and killed by the fairies. Lord, forgive me for my sin. But it's like, brother, you didn't have to do that. Like, you didn't have to just have them die. Like, that's highly inefficient, because then you have to go get more workers every single time and recycle over their dead fucking corpses. Like, you would have to walk over so many bodies for that to happen. You could have just, like, had them do the work, and then had them go home before it gets dark out, and then have them come back. Like, you didn't need that. But it's things like that. Eventually he catches a fairy, and he's, like, training it like a pet. So they're watching these videos of him training the fairy, like learning from the fairy, and then randomly in his last entry he's like, I've got to kill it. I've got no choice. I'm going to take it behind the barn and I'm going to fucking shoot it in the heart. And then I'm going to shoot myself. For no fucking reason. It's like he spent like 100 days with this fairy in a cage, and then he's just like, you know what, I'm tired of playing with this toy. I'm going to kill it and then kill myself. So he does. Or so you think. So it turns out that fairy was actually a half fairy. Because thousands of years ago, fairies and humans used to fuck. And what happened is, they gave birth to halflings that live amongst us in secret. And that fairy that he captured was a halfling. One that could walk in the day. They called her the Daywalker. Her real name that she said was Arinthabuna or something. Arintha Rancor, Balrog, I don't remember. Something like that. But all this is just like getting vomited at you all at once towards the end of the movie. It's just like an overwhelming amount of just nonsense. Anyway, the professor eventually in one of the recordings says, hey, I left the boat over there. You can just like go this direction, get on the boat and leave if you want. So they do. And while they're going there, keep in mind, they're fully aware that all of the fairies can change their shape into human beings. This fucking goober here, this absolute imbecile, as they're running towards the boat, he hears one of their friends in the forest and like struggling. He's like, John, help. I think his name is John. He's like, John, I need help. Please, please. And he's like, I'm coming. So he grabs the guy and turns out it's not John. So then he dies. And they take his shape. And then they sail into the town. And then, big plot twist, the old lady was a fairy the whole time. She was the halfling the professor kept as a pet. Because it turns out the professor had a wife. And the wife died. And the professor tried to train a halfling, or tried to train a fairy to shapeshift into his wife so he could keep fucking her. And that's who this is the whole time. It was a fairy. So like his whole thing was like, their shapeshifting abilities can bring anyone back from the dead. Which they can't. It's not resurrecting the dead. It's literally just cosplaying as the dead. It's LARPing as a dead person. So him having this galaxy brain scheme of bringing his wife back never had any water to it, like no salt, because his wife is still dead. You're then just, you have a puppet of your wife. That's it. At that point, just get a doll, right? Like, it's stupid. His plan is stupid from the beginning. And then she's mad because fairies hate humans because of what they did, which is why the Watchers watch them and like kill them if they break the rules. They study them and then kill them because they're mad. 1,000 years worth of bad blood and a grudge. But when old lady is confronted by Dakota Fanning in the climactic final battle, Dakota Fanning's like, I know what it's like to not feel like you belong. Because it turns out her dark and mysterious past is she got her mom killed because they were on a road trip and she was like a little brat who rolled down the window and the mom was like, can you roll up that window? And then Dakota Fanning's like, I hate you! I hate you! I hate you! I'm not rolling down the window! I'm not rolling down the window! So the mom's like, what are you doing? Why are you freaking out? And she's like, I'm gonna roll up the window myself. So the mom starts rolling up the window and Dakota Fanning's character puts her fingers out the window and gets them crushed. And she's like, ah! And then the mom's like, what happened? And then she crashes into a car and dies. So she carries that guilt with her the entire time. And she, like, trauma dumps that towards the end. So then the halfling gets all of that information, and Dakota Fanning's like, the professor never told you? You're half human. And she's like, no, I can't be. I'm so conflicted. And then she's like suffering from the revelation that she's half human, half fairy, and then her wings pop out of her butt, and then she flies away, and now she's looking for more halflings. It's pretty fucking bad. It's pretty bad. But it's not nearly as bad as some of the other trash this year. But I like, there was multiple times where I did this, like I gestured this emote, because they were just making things up out of nowhere with no real payoff or build up to it. They're just like, oh yeah, end this. Oh yeah, end this. Because of that. Because I said so. Should watch a bad movie in the sub Discord with everyone. That's kind of a fire idea. But yeah, I just wanted to share that because I saw this last night. I just had to relay the information. No, I really think the Shyamalan family has great ideas. This is a cool premise for a movie. What they need, what the Shyamalan family desperately needs, is somebody to flesh out their premise better than they can. That's what they need. Like, this movie could have probably slapped. If there was a global leaderboard for horror movies watched, I imagine I would be in the top 50. And I say that sincerely. I think I have seen more horror movies than most people have seen movies in their entire lifetime. It's a genre that I am so passionate about because it's almost exclusively awful films. And by now, all of you know that I love bad movies. So bad they're good. I find them to be highly entertaining to just watch something that is objectively trash but in an entertaining way. So that means that I am constantly consuming horror films. Because bad movies and horror go together like cereal and milk. It's almost more impressive just how consistently terrible this genre is. It's just saturated with the worst throwaway garbage imaginable. Just this stinky pile of dog shit for horror films that come out in recent years. Now, it's not all of them. There are some bangers out there. There's some diamonds in the rough for sure. But 99% of horror movies that come out are just not good. And I've seen like 99% of horror movies. So last night I was just going through this big rant about like Blumhouse just pumping out trash, as well as like a couple of horror movies that I really like Hereditary and Martyrs. So it was this mixed bag of just ranting about horror as a genre in general, and I just wanted to show you all of that real quick because I have seen more horror movies than I imagine most people in the world have. Movies you've never even heard of, I have seen. In fact, my least favorite movie of all time is a horror film that I bet zero of you have ever heard of past the times I've mentioned it over the years. It's called Let's Be Evil. And the only thing scary about this film is when you recognize that your time was wasted and you were directly insulted by sitting down to pop this piece of shit on the television screen. It's a movie about nothing, really. Like, when Squidward goes to that empty dimension to be all alone, there was more going on in that void than there was throughout the runtime of Let's Be Evil. The plot is supposed to be like these smart kids are in a bunker and then they decide to kill their babysitters, and that's like the scariness of it. But like, that barely even really happens in the film. It's actually just these tedious chores that you witness with some kids solving like fucking three-dimensional Rubik's Cubes. It's so lame. It is indescribable how bad this film is. It's not fun bad or anything at all. It is actually one of the most miserable movies you can ever really watch. So, point is, I've seen movies in this genre that no one else has ever even heard of. This went on Netflix in like 2016, and I'm pretty sure it was taken off within the same year because I doubt anyone was watching it. I don't know if it's still there or not, but that would be my guess. If I made this movie, I would be doing everything in my power to scrub its existence from the files. I'd be erasing it like that planet the clones were made on in the Star Wars prequel trilogy. I would be trying to scrub this from the fucking archives. It is that bad. But anyway, let me just go ahead and show you this full rant. Before getting into it though, I do want to just shout out Plague Seeker one more time. This is my newest comic series. Issue 1 just dropped. It is 80 beautiful pages of carnage, a wonderful story, and just the best art you'll ever see in your goddamn life. So Plague Seeker issue 1 is out right now. You can find it at badegg.co. I'll put a link to it in the description. Pick up a copy of this bad boy. Do it for me, huh? L take on Blumhouse. Brother, look at the... What take? They pump out some of the worst movies because it's going to make them money no matter what. Because the budgets are so small. What do you mean? Look at this list of almost nothing but stinkers over the last couple of years, except for, I think it's Black Phone, Five Nights at Freddy's, and they had one more that wasn't absolute abominable dog shit, and I can't recall off the top of my head over the last 3 years. So Imaginary, dog shit. Night Swim, super dog shit. Five Nights at Freddy's, fine. Exorcist Believer, dog shit. Totally Killer, probably 3 people saw that movie, so I'm imagining dog shit. Passenger, dog shit. Insidious Red Door, super dog shit. Unseen, I didn't see that one, so I don't know. There's Something Wrong with the Children, looks like dog shit. Sick, I think I saw that one. Probably dog shit. Also came out in January, so most likely dog shit. Megan, good. Nanny, dog shit. I don't think I saw Soft and Quiet. I didn't see that. Halloween Ends, super dog shit. The Visitor, super dog shit. And every single one of these movies has such a low budget that no matter how bad it is, it's going to make its money back. Well, actually, Imaginary has a higher budget than almost all of their films combined. Their VFX team went crazy on those awful monster designs, I guess. But it's usually like $1 to $2 million, $2 to $3 million. Jesus Christ. How did Night Swim have a budget of 15 mil? No, what? That movie was shot in 2 locations. That's it. That's gotta be some kind of tax fraud write-off type deal. That is not a $15 million budget movie. They didn't even use VFX, really. I don't know where that money could have even gone. Maybe they're counting in marketing budget, because it wasn't, like, highly marketed. But, I mean, look at the box office. These all make a killing, even though they're legitimately terrible. I don't know why more people don't... I've said this a million times. I don't know why more studios don't do what Blumhouse does. Just make cheap horror movies and pump them out. They will always turn a profit. Always. Go up to their early movies, they're capable of quality. They're capable of quality, absolutely. They fund some really good stuff. Like Invisible Man, I thought was a banger. Megan, I also liked. Like, even in recent times. It's not like they can't make good movies, it's just that they normally don't, because they don't need to. So they don't bother funding something that's going to be expensive and somewhat of a gamble. Jesus Christ, even Truth or Dare. The $3 million budget, $95 million box office. Oh my god, even Truth or Dare. That's crazy. See, like, they don't miss. They can't miss. These things are so fucking cheap, and yet they always can turn such a huge profit for no reason. Oh my god, even Unfriended. $1 million budget, $16 million box office. This would be a box office disaster for every other studio in the world except Blumhouse. This is a 16x return on investment. I don't know why more studios don't do it. I'll never understand why more studios don't do it. Oh my god, Ouija Origin of Evil. Fuck, this movie was terrible. $81 million box office. They can't not make oodles of cash. No, I still haven't seen Sinister. That's one of those movies I want to watch. I've heard nothing but good things about Sinister, but I've never seen it. Apparently the sequel's terrible, but I've never seen the first one, and then everyone praises it. So I want to watch it. I just can't imagine this movie, like, actually being scary. There's only, like, 2 movies I've ever seen that I would actually consider, like, unnerving to me, to the point where, like, I was like, damn, that was a pretty startling experience. Hereditary, which I think is the best modern horror movie up until the last 10 minutes, where it just becomes generic horror schlock, and Martyrs, which I just mentioned. I don't even know if I can type this in on YouTube and have it be terms of service compliant because this movie is so extreme. This movie, I legitimately think is one of the most disturbing films ever made. Elvis the Alien made the video on it, and he covers it, and he doesn't even quite capture everything about it that makes it so powerful. It's a French film, right? Yeah, so it's part of a genre called extreme new age French, or extreme, fuck, what the, it's been a while since I've gone over Martyrs, but it's like extreme French something is the category, and it is haunting. Like, it's not a movie that's just shock for the sake of shock like some of that dog shit like Serbian film. This is a movie that has such a deeply profound story with incredible acting and like a really thought-provoking message to it. Like I mentioned, it's a movie that I still actively think about from time to time. It was a lot. Like, at first I didn't quite grasp it, I guess, fully when I watched it, but the more that I like sat on it, the more I was like, damn, wait a minute. It's so hard to watch. It is legitimately hard to watch, yeah. Martyrs is the best movie that I don't recommend to people. Yeah, I could never in good faith recommend this to anybody, because it is a lot. Is it scary? Like, horrific. There's no jump scares, or, well, actually there's like 2 jump scares, but it's not that kind of horror. It's like a very psychological, very hard to look at kind of horror. It's disturbing, and it's known mainly for its gore. It was weak sauce, to be honest. Now, imaginary is this has got nothing on imaginary. You're so fucking right. Yeah. Have you seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe? Super creepy. I think I saw that one a while ago. Is that the one from 2016? 2017? Had a lot of hype online. Because there was one of those, like, Autopsy of Jane Doe, the possessing of Lily Manchester, the possession of Grim Cheeseburger. Like, I've seen all of those, and they sucked ass. So if it was during that wave, then yeah, I probably saw it and didn't like it. This was during that exact wave I was talking about, like the taking of Deborah Logan, the haunting of Sally Bacon Ranch. Like, it was like all of these movies were pretty much the fucking same thing. Another like classic that I haven't seen outside of Sinister is It Follows. I never saw that one. And yeah, we already went over the Poonieverse. We were just talking about that a little bit ago. Barbarian was pretty good. I like Barbarian. Thanks for Resub Snowman. Have you ever done a horror movie tier list? It might be a fun stream idea. That is a pretty good stream idea, actually. I'm gonna write that down. That's not a bad idea at all. It'd be kind of nice, because I saw every single horror movie that ever hit streaming services from I think it was like from 2015 to 2017. So like anything that was released during that period, I saw every single horror movie. So I've got a catalog of some of the dumbest shit none of you have ever heard of. So that's a pretty good idea. Maybe I will do that. Martyrs is torture porn. It's not, though. That is kind of what it became known for like all the gore and stuff, but it is a movie that has an incredibly unnerving and deep message and concept. It's so much more than that. If it was just torture porn, it'd just be another throwaway piece of shit schlock film, but it's not. Teeth. Teeth was another one of those movies that had such a mystique built up around it. I remember it was during the 360 era when people were still watching like movies and shit from the Xbox dashboard. So you'd see, well, at least I'd see a couple of my friends watching Teeth, and then they'd hype it up like, man, that was so fucking disturbing. That shit was crazy. You're not ready for Teeth. You can't handle it. And then, like, I never bothered watching it, but then a couple years later, I was like, oh, I remember Teeth. People used to watch that on Xbox dashboard and said it was, like, crazy. I'll have to check it out. And it was so fucking silly. Like, it seemed like it was self-aware in its silliness. And then there's, like, the gynecologist who's like, Vagina denta! Vagina denta! It was a very cool movie. And then it set itself up for, like, a sequel I don't think ever came, where she was going to be some kind of vigilante superhero biting wieners off with her vagina teeth. Missed opportunity. It's not too late. They can bring the vagina teeth girl into the Poonieverse. She can fight Winnie the Pooh and Piglet by biting their cocks off. This is a super weird segue, but when I was taking a shit, I was closing some old tabs, and sometimes what I do is I write down things that I don't want to forget. And this is an older note, but I recognized I never talked about it.
I went to a strip club like a little while back, and there was a stripper there who, like, during her performance, like, stopped everything, like, stopped all movement around her, like the other dancers, and grabbed one of the dollar bills. And I was like, oh, she's about to do like some kind of cool magic trick. And then she got to the middle of the floor, put her legs over her head, put the dollar bill on her vagina, and shot it out like a rail gun with an air blast. She was like airbending it with, with her pussy. So I wrote down in my tabs, stripper dollar air blast, to remind myself of that, because I wanted to talk about it, because I was so fucking impressed with it. I was like, Jesus, the distance on that. And then she went for like round 2 on it, and I was like, fuck, Jesus, she's got a cannon. And Vagina Denta just reminded me of it. Did you tip her? Yeah, Caleb and I were just fucking like throwing ones at her. Do it again! Do it again! That's my favorite trick! Whoa! How far did it go? Through the ceiling. I thought she was gonna fucking blast a hole through it. Like, you know how... You remember like in Tom and Jerry when they're spitting watermelon seeds like a minigun? That's what she was doing with dollar bills in her pussy. Well, with a dollar bill, I guess. It wasn't multiple. Though I guess if she had like started stuffing them, she may have been able to. I think I can do the same thing with my butthole. Not without shitting. I don't think so. It takes so much force and strain, you'd absolutely just poop. That's talent, brother. I'm going to show you an image, and I want you to tell me how it makes you feel. What does it say to you? Now, I don't want to scare you. This isn't meant to be frightening, but it will be a bit distressing. Think of it like a therapy session, and this is a Rorschach. You ready? Here it is. BuzzFeed Studios jump scare. Don't worry, it's gone now. It can't hurt you anymore. I know that seeing BuzzFeed Studios elicits a feeling of sadness and despair. I honestly didn't even know BuzzFeed was still around. I thought we had eradicated that plague many years ago, but I guess it's still got a heartbeat, no matter how faint, and they're going all in on this horror movie called Dear David, which is based on a Twitter thread. I shit you not. That is the most BuzzFeed shit imaginable. They're making a Twitter thread horror movie. A stunning, brave, and bold twist on the horror genre here. Innovation at its finest, and that's what BuzzFeed is known for. I really can't wait to see what's next for the creative minds at the BuzzFeed Studios basement. I want to see what else they'll cook up in that cursed kitchen. Perhaps a Netflix original thriller about a bubbly blogger who's now facing her worst nightmare when she goes to Starbucks and was served a grande instead of a venti. Fucking teeth chattering. Chills, I tell you, chills. BuzzFeed Studios, they're aiming for the fences. They're swinging for a big home run, and goddammit, I think they might just hit it. This trailer for Dear David is impressively awful. Before getting into the trailer itself, I'll just go ahead and show you what it's based on. It's from this thread in 2017 where a comic artist named Adam was documenting a series of hauntings he was experiencing from a dead child named David. And this is the police sketch of David, I guess. It looks like something out of Ed, Nettie, but this was meant to be taken seriously. He tried to play it off as a very real thing, even though it's very clearly just a load of baloney, just some fish paste to have a bit of fun. But there were tons of people that were really, like, encapsulated. They were hooked. They tuned in every day for the latest update from Adam on David. You know, is David still trying to kill you? What's David up to? Is he out there playing with Hot Wheels again in the middle of the night? Oh my god, David's a menace! We gotta fucking kill David quickly! That kind of shit. Like, they were really invested in the story. And now BuzzFeed is doing what they do best. Striking while the iron is completely cold and everyone has forgotten about it. Not the most timely execution here. This is 6 fucking years too late. The whole world doesn't remember this thing, and now BuzzFeed for some reason is trying to parade its corpse around to make money off of it. In a very pitiful attempt at that. They chose something that was only popular on Twitter 6 years ago, and only lasted for a handful of days, really. And they're like, yep, that's the one. That's our horror movie magnum opus. Dear David, let's run it. Like, I just can't even believe it. Why even bother? You're already so late to it. If this had come out in, like, 2018, maybe,
then you might have a chance of getting a couple ticket sales. But this movie, Dear David, might legitimately sell 0 tickets. It's just incredible how out of touch BuzzFeed is. This is a film that wouldn't even be seen by family and friends because it looks so awful and uninteresting on a concept that no one cares about from a fucking Twitter thread. And it's integral to the film itself, too. Twitter plays a large role in the trailer. Like, that is so embarrassing. No one wants to go watch that. Like, if you went to the BuzzFeed office right now, I'm very curious what you would find. Maybe it looked like a dungeon where, like, there's only one light on. It's like a single light bulb dangling from a string. And, like, maybe 3 people on a computer still writing quizzes. What Harry Potter character are you? What does your favorite sex position say about your favorite Disney princess? Like, I don't know who's there and who came up with this. Not even AI would generate something this out of touch. Like, it blows my mind. But anyway, let's talk about the trailer now. I can't show you the trailer because I don't want to get, like, DMCA'd by BuzzFeed or anything. So I'll just show you some screenshots of it and tell you what's going on. So, they immediately get into the cringe because everything with BuzzFeed is like this imminent natural disaster of cringe, like a fucking tornado barreling towards you and you can't escape the embarrassment. So it opens up with the main character posting his comic on Twitter and getting roasted for it, saying it's bad, yikes, your comics are shitty now that you work for BuzzFeed. A literal self-insert with BuzzFeed here. So they're making comments like, you work for BuzzFeed, now your art's lame. And then one of his coworkers is like, it's the worst thing to do to engage with trolls online. And he's still engaging with trolls, and then he commits the ultimate sin. He summons the demon, David, by telling someone to die in a fire, DIAF. After sending that message, he then says this verbatim: sometimes you've got to troll the trolls. So clearly this dialogue is written by actual 66-year-old men here, because Jesus Christ. So then, after saying die in a fire, this mysterious Twitter account pops up saying, why are you so mean? And if you look at the name, it's from Dear David. The shameless goofballs at BuzzFeed even had the gall to say that it's inspired by actual events. Oh, brother, it's inspired by an actual Twitter thread, not actual events. These events are about as real as the Blitzball Championship in Final Fantasy X. It's just a silly horror story that they cooked up. Nothing else. Just because it's written down in a Twitter thread doesn't mean that it's evidence that it's true. The trailer then goes into the same old, tired, generic, formulaic garbage that we've seen a million times. So here's this scary child, David, being a little goofball in the chair. He's here because I guess he didn't like the main character trolling on Twitter, I guess. He didn't like the die in a fire line, so now David's here to teach him a lesson. And of course, there's a BuzzFeed article being written about it. And honestly, this just seems like a really desperate attempt to remind people that BuzzFeed exists. So the more I watched the trailer, the more I realized that they're putting BuzzFeed in as many places as they can, and I really think that's because they recognize that nobody gives a fuck about them anymore. So this is just like a Hail Mary attempt to remind people that this is still a platform that exists. And my God, is it just awful to look at. It's so pathetic. The trailer drags on with more normal, boring trash with tiny little jump scares here and there and little creepy images. And then we reach towards the end here where he's getting out of a shower and he notices in the mirror, DIAF. Die in a fire. The same thing he said to troll the trolls on Twitter, if you might remember. And now he's being haunted by the DIAF statement. So this whole thing seems like David's really trying to troll the troll who was trolling trolls. Leave it to BuzzFeed to break new ground. Pioneers, I tell you. Absolute fucking geniuses. There's really nothing else to discuss with the trailer. It is literally just all the same exact horror movie trope cliche that you've seen actually a billion times by now, shoved into one desperate attempt from BuzzFeed to remind people that they're still around. So yeah, this is already shaping up to be an extremely embarrassing endeavor from BuzzFeed here. It's not something anyone asked for, ever, really, and it's also 6 years too late anyway. I just don't understand the thought process. Horror movies are always made on a very low budget, and this looks like no exception. It looks like it's a very low budget movie, so most of the time horror movies actually turn a very sizable profit because, like Blumhouse, for example, will make a horror movie for like $2 million, and then if it only does like a $8 million box office run, it still did pretty well. Like, that's still a financial success overall. That's why Blumhouse keeps churning out like pretty low effort horror movies pretty often, because they're cheap. And it doesn't have to perform extraordinary in the box office, and sometimes it does. It goes well above what it should have. It punched above its weight class, like, for example, Paranormal Activity. Very low budget and made 9 figures. So there's always so much room for horror movies to be a financial success because they're so cheap, but in this case, I don't see that happening, because who the fuck wants to watch this? I love fun, bad horror movies, but this does not look like a fun, bad horror movie. Even I'm not that interested in seeing it. And that's saying something. That's a fucking statement right there. You have dreadfully missed if you're making a bad horror film that even I'm bored by. So, I might still see it out of pity, I don't know yet, but it just, I just don't understand what their thought process was here. It looks like shit. It really does. I don't think it's going to save the company. I think it's only going to continue to push the company's head even deeper into the toilet, but I guess we'll see. That's about it. See ya. Hi, I bet you can't even tell that I have a mental illness, and that mental illness is called an addiction to bad movies. I can't help myself. I see every new horror movie that comes out. I've seen every single 2024 horror movie except for one. The one good one, apparently, which is Late Night with the Devil. I've seen every single other horror movie, and I double-checked. And I at this point, I don't even know why. Like, I know they're going to be awful going into them. And you all know I love bad movies, but I also know going into most of these that they're not going to be so bad they're good. They're just going to be a genuine, complete waste of time. So you have to wonder, am I possessed by some kind of dog shit movie demon that just somehow deep in my soul compels me to go waste money and time to see these on the big screen? Today I subjected myself to The Exorcism starring Russell Crowe. This one was really interesting. Not the movie itself, that was the furthest thing from interesting, but the concept of this movie fascinated me because last year, Russell Crowe was in a movie called The Pope's Exorcist, where he played another exorcist. So I thought this was like the extended Pope's Exorcist universe, but these two movies have no relation to one another. He played the same role twice. He said like King Neptune, that was so good I think I'll have it a second time. He fucking said, hey, where's second breakfast? I love playing the exorcist role. And at the end of The Pope's Exorcist, they set up like a Men in Black style universe where there's this group that goes and fights the demons that are possessing innocent humans. And it all happens in the shadows, behind closed doors, where God refuses to look. Well, I'm going a little far there, but basically they set it up as I'm assembling a team of elite exorcists. We gotta go kill all the demons. We gotta go fuck them in the face. So they conclude that movie with like this almost pseudo montage of like exorcists getting ready and setting up like a network to track possessions and all of that. I have expected Linkin Park's What I've Done to start playing like the end of the Transformers movie when Optimus Prime makes a call out to the cosmos for more Autobots. I thought that was going to happen, but for exorcists. So this movie I went into really thinking that it tied into that universe. And can you believe my surprise when it turns out he's just playing the same role in a different way? And the movie's bad. But here's the really crazy thing. The whole movie's not bad. I actually thought almost the entire first half of the film was pretty decent. Like, it's not amazing by any means, but with all the slop that you get fed, like the fucking pigs we are in the movie theater seeing these horrible horror movies, it was at least a step above most of that. So the film's concept is they're filming a remake of the original Exorcist movie, which they treat like Voldemort. They don't name it, but they keep implying it, and they keep using the similar themes and scenes from the original Exorcist in a modernized way. So Russell Crowe gets the role of the Exorcist, who's going to perform the climactic final moment there. And he gets the role because the person prior to him got attacked by a demon on set and killed, and it led Russell Crowe, who was an actor struggling with alcoholism and drugs and just a really troubled past, to land this big position. And throughout the filming of the movie,
more and more creepy, evil things keep happening as a demon has infiltrated Russell Crowe himself. And I actually really like the set here, where they have like this dollhouse, this open dollhouse that they're in filming the scenes, and Russell Crowe's struggling with the material, and the director's saying some really mean things to him, actually just talking shit like it's a League of Legends lobby, getting real toxic to try and bring out the best performance of him. His daughter also hates him because he's an alcoholic drug addict who abandoned her and her mother when the mother had cancer, and he was out apparently just getting high, getting drunk, and chasing pussy, as the director called it. So they set him up as like some irredeemable piece of shit who's doing everything he can to just get this last great performance, and like he really wants to nail this role but just can't seem to do it. So as he's trying, he just keeps getting worse and worse. The demon infiltrates him deeper and deeper, and the performance from Russell Crowe is pretty good. Like, it actually seemed like he tried very hard in this role. The daughter's performance was really good too. Like, they actually tried to put their best foot forward for this movie, and it's such a shame that it all completely falls apart and wasn't worth trying for in the end. So, like I said, I do think the first half is at least decent. Like, I find it to be a compelling story that I haven't really seen before like this. It started off pretty self-aware, and then it completely lost that and fell into almost a parody of itself. But I will say, even in the first half, which is definitely the best part of the film, which I guess really ultimately isn't saying much. That's like saying the best part of a poop is when it comes out of your butt. It's like, okay, I guess. So, like, the first half, they still don't set up scares very well. They actually do build tension okay, but there's no real scare that happens or anything that ever comes from it with all the tension. They usually just take the cheapest way out with like the lamest jump scare ever, where it's just like a really quick loud noise of something that just kind of appears out of nowhere. So, like, example, Russell Crowe's getting like possessed, the daughter sees him just kind of standing, like sleepwalking. She goes up to him, and they just stand there staring, or she just stands there staring at him for a second while he's doing this. And then all of a sudden he snaps out of it going, and it's like, okay, I mean, I guess. Like, they built up tension for like 3 straight minutes, only for that to be like the big payoff scare. And it's just very silly. Like, it just is. Like, that's silly. Like, you laugh at that, not go like, oh, geez, jeepers. No one goes like, zoinks, you got me with that. It's just, oh, okay, loud noise startled me. That's a really silly loud noise. There's also just a lot of things in this movie that they kind of set in place and then do nothing with. So, like, the director, he's clearly a bad guy. He is a villain saying some heinous shit to Russell Crowe's character, Anthony, and he gets nothing for it. Like, the demon gets very upset at him, but then does nothing to kill him or, like, you know, give him any level of, like, comeuppance or anything, even though they really set it up like that was going to happen. It just doesn't. There's also a romance plot with his daughter that also just doesn't go anywhere. Like, I guess the only reason it's there is to show that not everything in her life is terrible, but it doesn't lead to anything, and they end up abandoning the relationship subplot. So, I feel like at some point, apparently this movie went through a lot of delays. I feel at some point they just said, fuck it, we're going to Frankenstein this, we're going to cut something together the best we can and just send it. And it does feel that way. It's just very rushed, especially at the end. Also, Sam Worthington's in this movie. Huge actor. He has maybe 3 scenes. Why even bother putting him in this pile of shit? Like, maybe this is something he wanted to do because he was bored. He's like, oh, I see you guys are filming. Do you guys want me to do something with this? I mean, I've got like 3 hours to kill. You might, oh, okay, cool, yeah, you know, I'll come play that. Because he's actually on screen for maybe in total 45 seconds. And yet, in the beginning of the movie, they put his name there as like a prominent character. Like, I went in here under the impression like, oh, okay, maybe Sam Worthington's going to have a big role to play. He does not. Like, he has probably less screen time than I did in the Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. It's weird. Like, why even bother paying that amount of money for an actor of that caliber and that size? Now, anyway, let's get to the meatballs of the spaghetti here. Let's talk about that final act of the film, the second half. Hoo-wee. Yikes. So I've only really been talking about the first half here. The second half goes into the most generic horror movie I think I've seen all year. Like, it is actually so unbelievably generic, I have to wonder if they were laughing while filming it, just being like, man,
this stinks, but we're getting paid for it. Just fucking run it. It does every possible cliche as quickly as possible. So Sam Worthington's character I mentioned, well, when Russell Crowe's character is getting way too deep into the possession, he starts like puking and coughing, he can't even do his line reading anymore. Director eventually just says, look, Sam, his name's not Sam in the movie, I already forgot what his name is. I actually don't even know if they named him in this movie. They probably forgot. But he eventually comes up to him and says, look, Sam Worthington, listen, Anthony can't do this role anymore, we need you to take it. And he goes, okay, I guess I'll take it. And then the next scene after he takes it, he's practicing his lines in front of a mirror, and Russell Crowe blasts through the mirror, grabs him by the neck, and glass shoots into his eye, killing him. But whatever. So the two girls end up recruiting a priest, well, a former priest, who was actually like a consultant on the set of the film. And they've been kind of keeping him up to date on what's going on with Russell Crowe this entire time. And then he's like, okay, time to dust off this old suit here and perform an exorcism. So then the three of them go to the movie set and they confront Russell Crowe. He's got the priest in a trance, and he's got the daughter's girlfriend in a trance, and then he's just like playing like goofy little games with her. So like there's a Bible on the ground, and the daughter's walking up to the Bible, she goes to pick it up, and then it just magically fucking whips to the other side. So then she goes over and then picks it up. It's like that scene out of SpongeBob with the dollar bill, where they throw a dollar bill out and then like yank it back. That's what he's doing with the Bible. So he's quite the prankster, I suppose. His name was like Moloch or something, I forgot. And then she starts reading from the Bible, and then Russell Crowe sits there and he's like, you don't believe those words, do you? I know you don't believe those words. And he just sits there like lecturing her, goes on like a monologue about why Russell Crowe's not worth saving. Why? Like, why are you even bothering to have this conversation? This is my biggest pet peeve about horror films, where like the evil demon entity gives the tools sometimes to the people fighting him. To like, why? Like, there's no self-preservation from the demons. What, they'd go through all this effort, this elaborate plan of possessing someone in all of these steps, just to allow the good guys to get all of the necessary tools while they watch. Like, this demon could have killed all of them. Why put them in a trance? Why let her get the Bible? Why let them do that, and you just sit there watching and sometimes laughing and giving a stupid speech? It's ridiculously dumb. It just shows that the writers have no idea on how to have like the humans combat the demon here. So they just rush through it with this cliche formulaic dog shit. So anyway, she starts reading from the Bible. He eventually goes over to her because it's not working, and he grabs her up, choking her, and then she puts a cross on his forehead, and he's like, ouch, oh, it burns, which snaps the other two out of their trance. And then eventually the priest is like, listen, take me instead, give them Russell Crowe back. And the demon complies, so he then possesses the priest, and Russell Crowe snaps out of it. Russell Crowe then starts reading from the Bible, which bursts into flames, another classic horror movie trope. And he's like, the Lord forsakes you, clearly. You're irredeemable trash is what you are. But then the tables start to turn as he starts reciting the prayers from memory, and then the two girls behind him are saying, amen! And then the demon's like, no! Screaming. And Russell Crowe keeps his foot on the gas, saying all the holy words, and the two girls behind him going, amen, 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 and the demon's going, nah! Just squirming around. And then it eventually culminates with Russell Crowe taking that crucifix, taking the cross, and stabbing the old guy in the head, fucking instantly killing him. But then he goes in for round two and then stabs him up through the neck, literally impaling this fucking guy, which then sets him on fire and burns his body to ashes. You didn't even beat the demon, you just killed this guy. Keep in mind, he was like, the priest was still there. Like, the demon was using his body as a vessel. They didn't just exorcise the demon, they murdered the man. In that case, you could have just called the police to come shoot him. It would have done the same thing. So they just fucking murder this guy, and that's their triumphant moment. It's so stupid. Like, the whole final act is so bad. It's so bad. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to kind of talk about this movie since I saw another trash horror film. It's not the worst horror movie of the year, but it's definitely a bad one. It's another absolutely horrible one to put into this very impressive 2024 for bad movies. That's really about it. See ya.